Yo, hello everybody, what's up? In case you're listening for the first time, this is not how I normally talk. I'm just doing these little shenanigans right now.
Shenanigans.
Hello everybody and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet. I hope you're having a fantastic day. We are 14 minutes late, which is primarily because David Wood was taking his sweet time and letting me wait here together with everybody else. And I told him this time, David, I've had enough of this. If you keep coming late, I will not have you on my channel anymore.
I was 3 minutes late. In my defense, it was because I just finished recording an awesome video. I have no idea why this guy asked me to respond to a certain passage of the Quran, but a Muslim friend did. So, why don't you respond to this? Okay. So just wreaked all kinds of havoc on the Quran. But then I was only 3 minutes late, and I look and I see we're 12 minutes past that. It's almost like someone couldn't get his mic to work and all that stuff.
Yeah, come on. It's just, don't blame it on me.
It's funny because I see people, David's building up the suspense for this response. It's like I haven't even watched it yet. I haven't even watched the clip. You said we could actually watch it right here and stuff. Yeah. So it's like reaction to it and stuff. So
that's the funny thing. We talked about it behind the scenes. We thought we would actually do this on a different day. No, we were planning on doing this on Friday, I believe. Mm-hmm. Then we dropped it because of some developments. And then today we decided, hey, let's just do it. And the preparation is not as we originally planned it, but we want to be spontaneous and
yeah. I was at the playground with my wife and Kepler, and you're like, hey, you want to go live? All right, let's do it.
Yeah, that's how I am. I disrupt all your private plans. By the way, Verimoves made a super chat and said, David, you mentioned in a different stream, Rumble is worse than YouTube. This is the first I've heard this. Would you elaborate a little?
No, not right here, because we do want to get to our show. I will make a video out of that about that either this coming week or the following week, just because so many people are asking what I meant. And what I mean there is Rumble may be better for certain things. Like if people want to complain about COVID or something like that, and Rumble has, doesn't ban you as quickly as something like YouTube would or something like that. For stuff that we do, it's actually worse. It's actually worse than YouTube. I'll explain that in a video sometime.
That sounds very funny. So today what we want to do is we want to look at this podcast episode on the Mikhaila Peterson podcast, which came out a few days ago, on which Mohammed Hijab and Ayaan Hirsi Ali are on opposing sides, and the podcast is called Opposing Views. So she asks Mohammed Hijab questions and asks Ayaan Hirsi Ali questions. There is a great contrast that you will be able to see in the responses and the conduct of these two people, how one compares to the other. And this is also something that happened after Mohammed Hijab appeared on Jordan Peterson's podcast, which I criticized very harshly because I thought it was very lacking, and Jordan Peterson didn't go into very important stuff. Mikhaila asked some really good questions, and obviously she doesn't know very much about Islam, but I think that she got a very good impression from the Muslim apologists who are here to represent Islam. So we want to talk about that.
I'm guessing, maybe I'm a prophet here, but I'm guessing that Hijab was like a major jerk and really hostile towards Ayaan Hirsi Ali, right?
You could say that, yes.
So a woman who, fled her country and had to deal with female genital mutilation, all this other stuff. And then they wanted to kill her where she was. And so she got out of there. One of her friends who helped her make that short film, Theo Van Gogh, he got brutally murdered and almost completely beheaded in broad daylight. And so that's her life with Islam. And then let me guess, Mohammed Hijab, I'll show you to disagree with us. We'll show you not to mess with us. I'm about right.
That is about right. It also shows a complete lack of, sensitivity of reading the room and whatever, responding accordingly. I mean, he's talking to somebody who went through hell, if I can say that, on her journey, and witnessed the direct, the murder of a person, of her friend with whom she made a movie, and the murderer even said Ayaan Hirsi Ali is next, or something like that, or she should be something like along those lines. And then here comes this brave big Muslim apologist and just gives such a big conduct. But we will see that. We will get to that. It will be very, very telling. Before we start, I want to ask everyone a question, which I will ask again when we are halfway through the podcasts or so. Please guess, everybody. What do you think? How much are Muslims in general, as you would think, or most Muslims who have seen this podcast, proud of Mohammed Hijab's representation of Islam or not? What do you think? What is your guess? I will ask you that question again, just so that you can test yourself and your understanding of the Muslim community.
Alhamdulillah, our hero, our savior, he's going to save us from the avalanche of apostasy. If we just get him on enough podcasts.
Yeah. It's okay. So
you gotta love this religion, man. It's hilarious, right? There's nothing you can watch that is more entertaining than this.
What a religion.
Is Islam
Can everybody tell me if you can hear it?
innately misogynistic?
I hear it.
The answer to that, unfortunately, is a clear-cut yes.
If someone wants to quote aspects of the Islamic discourse, aspects of the Islamic jurisprudential tradition, and juxtapose it with the Western discourses, especially here we're talking about second-wave feminism, and expect Islam to correspond with those, they'll be utterly and bitterly disappointed, because clearly...
Okay, everyone can quickly let me know if the audience is well balanced and everything.
They're saying they can hear it.
If so, then we will proceed. I'm playing it with a little bit higher speed. Excuse that.
We believe our system is superior.
To two sides of contentious.
I hope the music was not a problem.
And I had tried to say 104.
System is superior.
See, yeah, I'm going through it again. Funny.
Welcome to episode 140 of the Mikhaila Peterson podcast. I'm Mikhaila Peterson. This episode was intense, to say the least. It's an opposing views on Islam. I had Mohammed Hijab on one side, an author and philosopher interested in political philosophy and comparative religion, and I had the pleasure of speaking to Ayaan Hirsi Ali, an author, scholar, and former politician best known for her activism against women's treatment in Islam. I'm incredibly honored to be able to host these kind of conversations and to be able to speak to two sides of contentious subjects. I'm never happy when one side goes after the other side and attacks them personally rather than attacking their ideas. I left this opposing views kind of freaked out and fairly aggravated, to be honest, but I haven't edited anything because I think it's best to show what and how everyone said.
Oh, so this is after.
Regardless of how uncomfortable it was. If you enjoy this content or learn something, please consider subscribing. Before we jump into a somewhat stressful podcast, this episode was brought to you by NordVPN.
Okay, so she wants to go into advertisement, but there are already a few things that need to be said, and I'm sure you have caught them already.
It doesn't. First of all, it does not sound like she's happy with or impressed with hijab. Sounds more like I'm reluctantly posting this, just because these guys are her and Jordan and so on are have a really high value of the importance of representing people accurately and freedom of speech and things like that. But it sounds like, hey, man, this is really bad, but I'm going to post it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, notice the wording that she uses. I would even like to play that again. But she said, "I left this podcast kind of freaked out and aggravated, but I wanted to publish it anyway, without editing, without leaving anything out, because I want them to represent themselves as they are." So this is her impression of this episode. I left this podcast freaked out and aggravated, but I left it unedited anyway and publish it. And I really want to say something here at this point. I mean, there are lots of Muslims who think Mohammed Hijab did something great for Islam here. You hear the words of the host and the impressions that she had from this episode. She's freaked out. Freaked out. The wording is freaked out and aggravated. But she wanted to publish it anyway because she wants to represent them as they represented themselves. Is this really what people are proud of?
Yeah, and I mean, think about this. Is, I mean, my goodness, AP, this is why we love Mohammed Hijab. And AP, you and I talk on the phone, so you bear witness right here. You could bear witness when we're talking on the phone and you say, "Hey, Mohammed Hijab was just on a podcast with so and so." Do I go, "Oh no, he was on," or do I go, "Oh, this is awesome"?
I remember our first call where I told you, "Hey, Mohammed Hijab was on the Jordan Peterson podcast," and your reaction was, "Great."
Yeah, so, and because I mean, think about this, right? It would have been very easy to get Ayaan Hirsi Ali on there with some very, very nice, sweet-talking Muslim like Shabir Ali or someone like that, who would be very, very friendly, who would come across as very nice. In fact, would come across nicer than Ayaan Hirsi Ali does. And then the impression that someone would get for, I mean, I'm sure a lot of her audience does not know much about Islam except for, what they hear from terrorist attacks and so on. The impression that they would get from watching like a Shabir Ali type would be, wow, we were right. It's just those radicals out there. And oh yeah, everyone has their radicals and extremists and so on. So wow, yeah, thank you. See, we all feel better right now. We all feel better about Islam. That would be what would happen if someone like Shabir Ali was on there. But instead you got Mohammed Hijab, and his followers are, show him Mohammed Hijab. Put that woman in her place, beat her into submission, crush her, destroy her house, humiliate her. And Hijab goes, "I will humiliate you. I will humiliate all of you and show you. You never speak against Islam." And someone like Mikhaila and her fans are going, "Oh my goodness, this is what they're doing to this victim of female genital mutilation who is under perpetual death threat for her entire life just for speaking against this ideology, and whose friend was brutally murdered in the streets for daring to criticize this ideology, and he acts like this towards her. This is horrifying."
There's a part in this episode. There is a part in this episode. I believe, as far as I understand it, she hosts these discussions, these opposing views discussions, and they are not even live. It's not like the two sides are talking to each other. It's the two sides are recorded at separate times, and then she presents them going against each other, and she wants to let them talk freely and say whatever they want as much as possible. But in this episode, there is a specific point where, in the end, she, I guess, can't hold it back anymore and say, okay, and says, okay, stop, and so she actually stops Mohammed Hijab because he gets very loud and very aggressive, and he's not even talking to Ayaan Hirsi Ali personally. But let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's keep watching it. Let's see.
I love this guy, man. I love this guy. Okay,
it's amazing. I really think Mohammed Hijab, I would completely support Mohammed Hijab appearing on Fox News, or better yet, on CNN, or on an extended interview or something.
Yeah, we've seen them trying to get him on Logan Paul or Jake, but one of the he's trying to get on all these podcasts. Listen, guys, you can tell all these podcasters that Mohammed Hijab's fans are trying to get him on. D Wood says, yes, do it. Do it. Do it. That's who we want.
Okay, let's go.
NordVPN.
No, okay. Advertisement.
Yeah, you'd have to get some kickback if you replay her advertisement.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. We've been trying to do this for a long time. I'm glad that we're
Podcast.
What are you doing?
Thank you very much for joining me on my podcast.
Mikhaila, thank you very much for having me. We've been trying to do this for a long time. I'm glad that we're finally doing it.
I'm so glad. This is going to be very, very interesting. So I'm happy about it. I hope so. Yeah. Okay. Let's get started. So we're doing a podcast on Islam today, and I have a number of questions. So I'm just going to get right into it. Actually, no. Let's start off with, if anyone who doesn't know who you are, can you give a brief background about who you are and what it is?
Wait a minute. Very quick comment. One of my mods timed out Sam Shimoon, which I can understand. Don't time out Sam Shimoon, please.
As you do.
So my name is Ayaan Hirsi Ali. I was born in Somalia, and I lived in Saudi Arabia, in Ethiopia, in Kenya. And when I was 22 years old, I went to the Netherlands. And I think I'm famous or infamous for leaving Islam and having lived in these African and Middle Eastern countries. After I arrived in the Netherlands, having made a journey that's not just geographical, not just physical, but intellectual. And so when I got acquainted with the norms and values of the West, such as freedom, equality, the rule of law, women's rights, I thought that those values and those principles were superior to the ones that I was raised in. I was raised within the culture of Islam and in a tribal society.
That's true.
And so I would say, in a nutshell, that's my story.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to start off with what was your experience? And this is kind of a broad question, but what was your experience with Islam like?
Well, in the early years, before I was 20 years old, I would say it was mundane. We were not extremely religious. We identified ourselves as Muslims, prayed 5 times a day when we could and all that. But we didn't really have the fundamentalist fanatical strains that we see later. When in the 1980s, when I was a teenager, there were teachers who came to our schools and our neighborhoods who were propagating this radical strain. And I joined them. I fell for it. What attracted me, I think, was just the clarity that they offered. You know, you got a whole list of, here are the things that are forbidden in Islam, here are the things that are permitted, and all you have to do is just abide by these rules, and you're a good person. And then once I started actually trying to abide by those rules, I found out how extremely difficult it was. And then later on in my life, when I came to the Netherlands and I saw people who are actually good people, honest people, people who tell the truth and who do things in ways that are very productive in their relationships with other human beings and within the world, that's when I started to reflect on Islam, both in the sense that I was raised where we were passive Muslims, and later on when I became an active, fanatical believer.
Interesting. So a very personal experience with Islam, grows up in a not so religious environment, sees the very religious currents or the extreme ones, I guess, finds their clarity in having everything strictly laid out interesting, tries to practice it, but quickly finds out that it is not really that easy to practice because it's pretty oppressive and authoritarian, one could say. Sees the West and sees the contrast between her own culture and religion and what she finds in the Netherlands, and that leads her through her journey out of Islam. Very personal response, right? And very concise so far.
Yeah, and you notice, if you had no clue who Ayaan Hirsi Ali was, I read her book. What was her book? Infidel? The main one where
yeah, I
know
think
she had one before that which wasn't as popular. I think the caged version. I started reading that, did not finish. I did read Infidel though. But notice, if you're reading this, I mean, if you were seeing this for the first time, you think, wow, a woman who grew up in a certain context and then was able to compare what she was raised with something else, and then decided, hey, I think that other thing is better. She's coming across as a very nice, thoughtful person, as opposed to maybe someone else. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it was infidel or what was it called, heretic or something. I don't know.
It was something. Let me look it up real quick. Yeah, you go ahead. You go ahead and talk amongst yourself, AP.
Book publications, books. I don't remember the names. Okay, yeah, now you're right. It's Infidel. Okay, she has the book Infidel and a book named Heretic. That's fine. That's right. And she had some Dutch books before that. So, and then she has a new book called Pray. That's true.
Did you ever see Did you ever see that Theo Van Gogh short movie?
You mean the one? Yeah, the one that they made together. Yes, I did.
Yeah, that was, my
The one
goodness.
with
That was,
the one with the woman who
Yeah.
seemingly prays
yeah,
to
she's
Allah.
talking to
Yeah.
Allah and she's got the verses written on her body and stuff like
Yes,
that.
yes,
That
it
was
pretty
that was
intense.
brutal, man. That's what happens when you get a skilled filmmaker criticizing something.
That was pretty.
And they responded by chopping his head off.
Yeah.
Okay. Were the people you were seeing in the Netherlands, were these other religious people, like Christianity or atheist, agnostic, or just in general?
Many of them were Christian. So when I first arrived at the Asylum Seeker Center, most of the people who volunteered to help asylum seekers, refugees, they did it through their churches. So they were Christians. And the Christianity that I saw that was practiced in the Netherlands was a very appealing Christianity. People were actually, I thought, very generous, very tolerant. For instance, even though they volunteered to help us as non-Christians, they didn't demand that we convert to Christianity. They didn't preach their religion. They didn't impose on us in that way at all. And I thought that was interesting because when I started to become an active Muslim and abide by these rules of, the permitted and the forbidden and all that, and I really wanted to be a good Muslim. One of the things that our teachers were telling us was, you have to go and convert non-Muslims. And I thought it was interesting when I came to the Netherlands that these Christians were not imposing or preaching or proselytizing their faith. They believed that they were just doing good for the sake of goodness itself. And so, but there were also agnostics. There were atheists. Later on, as I left the Asylum Seeker Center. I went to college. I found jobs, and I was surrounded. By the time I left, 14 years later, by the time I left the Netherlands, I was surrounded more by agnostics and atheists than Christians.
Okay, interesting.
Here is the thing that she just said, like in her own circle, she was in a religious Muslim circle, and they were always told to preach and to convert everyone and this and that. And where she arrived in the Netherlands, she was helped by people who selflessly help just for goodness and don't even preach or anything. Just for saying stuff like this, she would be labeled and called a sellout or whatever it is, whatever words these people generally use. But these are completely accurate observations of by somebody who experienced both cultures very deeply. There is simply a huge contrast. In the West, you see this selfless help that you receive, whereas in Islamic culture, this culture doesn't really exist in such a sense. You don't have lots of people who simply go out there just to help you. You only have that mixed with extremely harsh intolerant religious attitudes.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say there is a big emphasis on preaching the gospel and so on, and so on in Christianity, but that is, I mean, that's combined with the view that all people are created in the image of God. We're commanded to love everyone, even our enemies. We're told to honor all people. And so it exists simultaneously that you want to preach the gospel, but even if someone's not converting, you can still do good in the world that is still good, even if it has nothing to do with people converting. Whereas in Islam, it's, hey, Allah has no love. Allah himself has no love for the unbelievers, right? That's straight out of the Quran. Allah does not love the unbelievers. And so what sort of love, concern are you supposed to have for unbelievers, people who reject Muhammad? Well, they're the worst of creatures, according to the Quran. Surah 98, verse 6. They're the worst of creatures. And so, you can have individual Muslims or even Muslim organizations that will be doing positive things in the world, and you can have Christians who are the biggest jerks in the world. But because of what these religions teach, statistically, you're going to have some differences in the populations that they produce.
So you will now see the manifestation of Allah's love, because we are now coming to Mohammed Hijab's introduction. So.
Mohammed Hijab, welcome to my podcast.
Welcome.
He smiled. That's good.
I don't understand why he says welcome. I'm still stuck on that. Is that a language thing, or was it just a mistake?
You're welcome for me being here.
I thought, wait a minute, is he hosting her also simultaneously on his own broadcast, and that's why he says welcome, or is it just one of those awkward moments where you accidentally say welcome and then you're like, oh, what did I do?
Well, I have to say, I mean, he made a good first impression with that smile. I was expecting, listen, with your inferior intellect, you two women combined.
Oh, you will see that
combined have the brain of one man.
You will see that very quickly. Just hold on. You will see that very quickly.
Thank you very much for being here. This should be an interesting episode. Before we get started, can you give anyone who doesn't know who you are a brief background about who you are and what it is you do?
All right. So my name is Mohammed Hijab. Much like yourself, I'm a YouTuber. I'm the co-founder of the Sapiens Institute. My academic background is in politics and history, where I've acquired a postgraduate in that as well. Islamic studies, of course, which I've acquired a postgraduate in as well, in addition to applied theology. And currently doing my PhD in the philosophy of religion. I have to say, Mikhaila, from the outset here, that unlike the co-guest, the ultra-crepidarian academic charlatan co-guest that we have, the obsequious apple polisher for the far right, Ayaan McGann, which is actually her real name. I'm actually qualified to speak about that, which we'll be speaking about today.
Did he just said ultra crepidarian?
He said the word.
He learned. Oh man. So he did watch the Yasser Qadhi video where Yasser Qadhi taught everyone the meaning of the word ultra crepidarian, and he was right. That is a word you learn. You could learn it for your SAT, but definitely definitely for the test you take to get into graduate school, you would learn that. And Mohammed Hijab was watching ultra crepidarian. So that is, I mean, apart from people who are using it to make fun of Yasser Qadhi for using it, that is the second time in my life I think I've ever heard someone actually use it.
I will play it again, but see the contrast. Ayaan Hirsi Ali introduces herself as I am Ayaan Hirsi Ali. I'm this and this, and I've made a long journey, and I have seen this. And then, hello, Mohammed Hijab. Please introduce yourself. And it's like,
yeah, introduce yourself. So give us that same story. Yeah. So it's notice it's. I mean, Ayaan Hirsi Ali took a few minutes to actually introduce herself, build some rapport with viewers. And Mohammed Hijab, why don't you introduce yourself? Yeah. Mohammed Hijab, Sapiens Institute. Listen, let me tell you about the golden showers that I'm going to rain down upon blah, 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 blah. For anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, Mohammed Hijab sent a pile of messages to us about giving golden showers and stuff like that. Anyway, that's why we keep bringing it up. So don't think we're just bringing that up for no reason. But
yeah,
anyway,
we never came up with the idea of talking about golden showers. That was
ultra crepidarian.
That was all the ultra crepidarian Mohammed Hijab's work. And for all who want proof, here it is.
Oh, there we go.
Here it is.
Let's read them. You can play with each other. Get on your knees for David Wood. David Wood can give you a golden shower. Get ahead and give David Wood what wants. Wink. Let David Wood give you a golden shower. Gimp, get on your knees for your master, boy. Get on your knees. You can suck that golden shower from your master. I know you need a slave master. Golden shower. Gimp, get on your knees for it. Let him slap your face, you fiend. This is the champion of Islam that everyone wants to, that Muslims want to put forward to insult Ayaan Hirsi Ali and put her in her place the way he puts us in our place. Wow.
Yeah, fantastic work. So I'll play this.
Great work.
I'm currently doing my PhD in the philosophy of religion. I have to say, Mikhaila, from the outset here, that unlike the co-guest, the ultra-crepidarian academic charlatan co-guest that you have, obsequious.
Did he just say obsequious?
Right,
Yeah.
Ayaan McGann, which is actually her real name. I'm actually qualified to speak about that, which we'll be speaking about today.
He uses those same words again later on.
I'm trying to. Who's she obsequious towards? Like Western?
Yeah, I guess that's the point here. That she is a subservient woman who sucks up to the white man or stuff like that. He goes into that later on again. It's very messed up. I don't know.
And by the way, think about this. The only way she was actually able to get out of Islam was for being the opposite of that, right? That's the opposite of her personality. Whereas what Muhammad Hijab wants women to be like is exactly what he's accusing her of being, right? Yeah. She's the opposite, but then he condemns her for being what he wants women to be, but only towards Islam.
It's very fun. It's very fun.
What a religion, man. What a religion.
What a religion.
Okay. It's quite an intro. Let's get started. I'm going to be asking you the same questions.
Okay.
So first, what's your experience with Islam been like? I know that's kind of vague, but go for it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, obviously, Islam is everything in the sense that it defines how my purpose of life. My purpose of life is to worship one God, submit my will to one God who is the creator of the universe. I wake up in the morning thinking of that, go to sleep thinking of that. It gives me anchorage, Mikhaila. It gives me moral
showers
and existential anchorage. It allows me to live my life in a way which is meaningful and purposeful. There's a tradition of the Prophet Mohammed where he said, "Wondrous the affair of the believer," that all of his affair is good, and that is not the case for anyone except for the believer. And that if something good happens to him, he is patient, and if something bad happens to him, he is patient and he is thankful and patient.
Unlike the ultra crepidarian. Yeah.
So in other words, for me, I think in terms of my own kind of personal life, what it does is it makes meaning out of pain, because life is full of pain, Mikhaila, as we all know. It's something that I think having a framework, a religious framework, where the center is, or the central aspect of it is to worship one God, that there's an eschatological dimension, that we believe in one God worthy of worship, not a man, not the creation, but one God. We believe in Jesus, we believe in the Old Testament prophets, and so on. It does give me that stability that I think is priceless, and I have to say that I can't imagine really a life without it. So in a nutshell, really, what Islam is for me is something which not only gives me meaning and purpose, but that if it was not part of my life, I couldn't imagine what kind of perpetually depressed I would be in.
Yeah, and that actually explains a lot. And I'm sure you're thinking the same thing I was thinking, AP. According to Muhammad Hijab, and messages that he has actually posted towards you, since you do not have that glorious life of be strong that he has, what should you actually do according to him?
Commit suicide.
We're not making that up, ladies and gentlemen. Hijab has told AP, you need to you should consider suicide.
If I were an anxiety-ridden, hate-filled nihilist atheist like Apus, I would consider suicide as a serious option. That is because the world offers such humans, in quotation marks, more pain than pleasure.
You're not real humans like AP.
The pain of being a coward, the pain of having no purpose, just finding a tall building. And
find a tall building.
Apus, I want to give you sincere advice. I think you should commit suicide, not because you are a talentless coward or because you are a waste of space. I think the world is offering you more pain than pleasure. It is not morally objectionable for you, so why not?
There you go. Airtight argument from Muhammad Hijab.
Yeah.
The champion of Islam that Muslims around the world want to represent them on their. If you don't agree with me, you should all commit suicide. You should. And by the way, you find that in the Quran. And then you've got Muhammad repeatedly, Gabriel's not doing what I want, or I'm so scared. He repeatedly tries to kill himself by hurling himself off a cliff.
Yeah.
You see why Hijab has this obsession. So more great teachings from the religion of Islam.
Fantastic, man. So everyone who is depressed and who doesn't have a moral grounding
kill yourself.
Has a message for you.
Kill yourself, boy.
Okay. So this isn't the question I asked Ayaan because I don't think it was as relevant, but is there a reason that I wouldn't say chose necessarily, but you're practicing Muslim as opposed to a Christian or another religion that worships one God?
Well, look, first and foremost, we will object to the fact that Christianity worships one God. Christianity, both Catholicism and Protestantism,
believe in the
doctrine of the Trinity.
Catholicism.
I think you said that. I don't know.
It's
They believe in the Father, the Son, and Protestantism. That Christianity worships one God. Christianity, both Catholicism and Protestantism, believe in the doctrine of the Trinity. They believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That the Father is God, the Son is God, and the Holy Spirit is God. But that there are not three gods, but one God. And we say that that is an unintelligible position. That's something that flies right in the face of reason, which is not possible logically, and that it's inconceivable, it's unintelligible, and it's unpardonable to believe that any man with a date of birth can be called God. And so Jesus Christ, for us as Muslims, is the Messiah. He is a prophet sent with wonders and miracles and signs, as the Bible correctly says in this point. But we cannot.
Okay, I want to say something. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the Trinity. I don't believe in the Bible, Jesus, and so on. There are a few things that need to be said. You could not possibly understand logic and then put forth the idea that the Trinity is contrary to logic, that it is logically impossible. There is nothing logically impossible about it. There is you cannot make an argument, with his standing, where he himself believes in the supernatural, and say that is logically impossible, that it doesn't work. It is that simply it doesn't go. And another thing is there was something else I wanted to address quickly. The other thing is, of course, what's funny is he wants to dismiss Christianity here as something that he would, of course, never choose, but he did not have a choice between Christianity and Islam. So why he comments on that is beyond me. People are saying that I'm having a lag.
I saw that some people are saying it's all right now.
He didn't choose Islam. I just want to say that. So the question is kind of answered in a terrible way. He didn't choose Islam. He was simply born as a Muslim.
Guys, what do you mean the lag? That there's a lag between his voice? Oh boy.
YouTube is not receiving enough.
Some people are saying it's fine now. Some people are saying it's good now. Other people are saying it's not good. It's
well. I have a fantastic, bombastic internet connection, so I don't know what the problem here is. I see it in my screen. It says YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. That's what it says. I don't know why, though.
People are saying it's fine now. Everyone's saying good now.
It must have been a lag, but it's over now.
Okay, yeah. Must have been a lag,
but it's over.
Oh yeah. AP. By the way, I agree with you. It's not simply, well, I happen to disagree with Mohammed Hijab that when he says that the Trinity is logically impossible. It's like you said. If you say that there's a logical contradiction in the definition of the Trinity, you don't understand you either don't understand what logic is, or you don't understand the doctrine of the Trinity. Because not a logical contradiction. There are things like this all around us all the time, right? I mean, the Quran is one in that it's a book. It's 114 in chapter. It's one in one way, more than one in another way. Allah is one in one way, more than one in another way. So he's one in nature, being, or essence. He's 99 in name, even though he has more names than that. If you wanted to list Allah's attributes, notice he's one in nature or being, but he's more than one in attributes, right? And notice the attributes can actually be in conflict. One attribute can say one thing, so his mercy triumphs over his wrath. He's got two attributes in conflict, demanding different things. You don't say, well, therefore you're dealing with two different gods, right? If you say that,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's not a contradiction to say that something is one in one way more than one another. You could say it's ridiculous. You could say it's not true. You could say it's false. You could say it's refuted by something, and here's an argument against it. But when it's a logical contradiction, you don't know what the heck you're talking about, right? And likewise, when he says he can't believe anything is God if it has a birthday.
Can I say something very quickly about that? Just very briefly. I mean, you have 2,000 years of Christology, right?
Mhm.
2,000 years of Christology, which went through so many different discussions and debates and formations and whatever it is. 2,000 years of Christology, very intense first centuries of Christology, discussing the nature of Jesus and the nature of God. And then you have somebody in 2022 who's like, oh, of course it's wrong, because, you know, how can somebody with a birth date be God? I mean, are you kidding me, man?
Yeah, and it's notice the level of, I mean, it's just stupid, right? If you want to say it's false and give a reason why it's false, great. But when they act like there's this contradiction inherent, well, you can't be God if you have a birthday. Well, yeah, if you're God in his eternal nature, it doesn't make sense to have a birthday. If you're God who becomes incarnate, who takes on a human nature, then you're in a different situation. And notice the parallel. Notice we could totally throw out the Quran based on what he says, right? So
Yeah.
what is the Quran according to Islam? It's the eternal speech of Allah. But I have multiple copies of the Quran. Notice those have publication dates on them. So notice I can say, according to Mohammed Hijab, I can't believe that anything is the speech of Allah. It's the word of Allah. If it has a publication date on it and the book was made on a certain day, I cannot believe that. Well, great. That's the Qurans I have. So the Qurans are not the word of God. The Quran's not the word of God, right? The Quran is not the word of God because the Quran has a publication date on it, right?
Yeah.
Notice the correct answer to that little problem there, according to Islamic theology, is that the Quran has two natures. The Quran is the eternal speech of Allah, but when it enters creation in a form we can have access to, it's either written on the hearts of believers, or in which case there's a day when that happens. There's a day when it's actually revealed to you and you actually learn it and it's written on your heart, or it's in a physical book form made of paper and glue and ink. Notice, according to what he just said, he just destroyed the Quran. I cannot believe that the Quran is the word of God because of that. Because it's supposedly eternal and yet it has a publication date on it. It's completely ridiculous.
The brother makes a good point. Yeah.
Brother makes a good point. By the way, AP, we haven't made it too far through this.
Let's go further.
You might need to do like multiple parts, like where we go through like half an hour.
Or you just don't talk much.
Yeah, but you're going to talk, and that's the problem. So if neither one of us talks, it would only take another hour and 28 minutes.
Just a very quick note. Tatiana said, AP or David, have you seen the video where Hijab claims that Jordan Peterson is likely to convert to Islam after that conversation? If so, thoughts? I have seen it and I wanted to react to it very briefly. I still haven't done it. I might do it in a few days.
Yeah, I have not seen that, but you know what?
He basically says, well, Islam very much agrees with Jordan Peterson's ideas, and I believe it is very likely that after this, Jordan Peterson will convert to Islam very soon.
One thing I can't figure out, right? Because I can normally read someone like Hijab like a book, but there are certain things like when he's saying, because I said this or that in the video or something like that. I heard that he was reciting the Quran to him or something like this. He's going to convert. What I can't figure out about Hijab is whether he believes it when he says things like that, or if that's just to impress his followers, right? Like,
yeah, that puzzles me too. It's a weird thing to publicly say.
I'm like 50-50 on that. Whether when he's going on in other words, when he's going on these podcasts, is he really thinking, "Hey, I'm going to go on this podcast and I'm going to smash Ayaan Hirsi Ali, and this will show them that Islam is true and people will convert"? Does he actually think that, or is it, "Hey, I know this is just going to people are going to be absolutely repulsed by what I'm saying, but my followers who are lifting me up on this pedestal, I'll be their hero. So I will become the hero of more and more Muslims. They'll support me more in my dawah. I'll be their champion and so on." So which one is it? Does he actually believe, oh, yes, they're all going to convert. My arguments are so powerful and so great. Or is it just, yes, they all obviously are going to think this is ridiculous, but my fans... They're impressed.
Okay, I will have to mute you, David, please.
It's important stuff, man. You got to give people what they want. This is straight dope.
Yeah, let's continue.
We do not believe that Jesus Christ is God or the Son of God. We believe that Jesus Christ was a mighty messenger sent from God Almighty, and that he was a person who was one of the greatest people who ever lived on this earth. We believe, and from that perspective, we're Christians because we follow Christ, but we don't believe that Jesus Christ is God. And in addition, I would say, we believe the final prophet Mohammed, he had evidences that indicates the truth and the veracity of his prophethood. And for that reason, to be honest with you, I do believe it's a choice that everyone does have to make. And this is the reason why I am a Muslim, because...
But if you make the wrong choice, then...
the proof is in Isaiah 42.
It's just instinctively, it speaks to me that you have to worship one God, whether, you know, the creator of the heavens and the earth, and that no creation can be God. And this is the dividing line, or the fundamental difference between Muslims and Christians.
I'm sorry, I have to say something, but no matter who you are, no matter where you stand, if you give this speech and say what he just said at the very end, I'm sorry, but I can't take that seriously. You can't say, if you are born into a religion and it's very obvious that you are in that religion and you grew up with that, you can't say that obviously everybody has a choice and I've obviously made my choice and it speaks to me and this and that. I'm sorry, that's just not true. Yeah, it's simply not true. You could find a different explanation for that, and that's okay. But saying this, it just makes me not take you seriously. Yeah.
And that notice the sort of insanity here. Like, we don't believe Jesus is the Son of God. We believe he's this prophet of Islam. That makes much more sense. But I mean, think about it. The sources that are confirmed as the inspired, preserved, authoritative word of Allah, according to the Quran, he affirms the gospel that was in the possession of the Christians in the 7th century. We know what the gospel was. It was called the fourfold gospel: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Father identifies Jesus as the Son. The Holy Spirit identifies Jesus as the Son. Jesus repeatedly identifies himself as the Son. The angel Gabriel identifies Jesus as the Son. The prophet John the Baptist identifies Jesus as the Son. Jesus' followers identify him as the Son. Even demons, while they're screaming in agony and being in his presence, call him the Son. The Roman soldier identifies him as the Son. Men identify him as the Son. Women identify him as the Son. Even the Jews who rejected him, one of their accusations against, one of their condemnations against him was that he was claiming to be the Son. So everyone who could actually confirm whether Jesus was claiming to be the Son, everyone who could identify him as the Son did. And then, David. What? And then 6 centuries later, an illiterate caravan robber comes along and says, how can he have a son? How can Allah have a son? He got no wife. Doesn't understand anything anyone's saying. And Hijab goes, oh, great point. I don't understand it either. Brilliant point,
David,
Mohammed.
David, you're reading the Gospels through a Christian lens. The Gospels actually confirm the Islamic message. If you read the Gospels themselves, you will find that they agree with Islam. And you shouldn't read through the Christian lens.
When the Father says, this is my beloved Son in whom I will please, he means this is merely a prophet. Don't believe the Christians.
And you know, the best, there is this amazing proof which the Quran provides us with when it comes to the argument of why Jesus is not God and why his mother is also not God. For some reason, it also needs to provide that evidence. But it gives us very clear proof. The Quran says Jesus and Mary both used to eat food, so therefore they are not God. That's it. Done. The end of story. That is evidence. That is proof. That's what the Quran says. We're done, man.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just,
why are we still talking?
We'll completely ignore the whole thing about the incarnation and taking on a human nature and
why
pretend you didn't say that.
Forget about that. It's just the Quran makes it all clear.
Okay, thank you. In your experience, is Islam innately misogynistic?
The answer to that, unfortunately, is a clear-cut yes.
Okay.
Islam is misogynistic in its approach to women. I know that by saying this, I offend a lot of people. I know that people's feelings get hurt, the feelings of Muslims. I know that that is the case. But setting feelings aside and just looking objectively at what it is that Islam says about women and where it positions us, the answer is yes, it is misogynistic. And I'll give you a few examples.
That would be good, yeah.
And I think the best example, because it's so factual, is the law, Sharia law, Islamic law. Islamic law declares that a woman has to have a male guardian at all times. That's not required of males. In Sharia law, a man is permitted to have 4 wives. She's not permitted to have 4 husbands. In Islamic law, in Sharia law, a woman's testimony in court is worth half of that of a man. It's not the other way around. A sister inherits half of what her brother inherits.
Wow.
And this goes on. And I think because these basic tenets of law, Sharia law, when they're implemented and where they're implemented, you see a huge difference between the way men and women are treated, girls and boys are treated. And I would say that is misogyny.
Plus, a woman shall stay at home as long as she doesn't absolutely have to go out, has to ask for the man's permission, can't travel by herself. A woman can be beaten if she is too arrogant. A woman must be obedient. The Quran explicitly says twice that the man is superior to the woman, and so on. So there is so much to that.
And because I'm not that familiar with Islam, is Sharia law something that's in the Quran directly?
Sharia law is derived from the Quran and from the teachings of the Prophet Mohammed. The Prophet Mohammed is the founder of Islam, and his legacy is a body of law.
You see, she said Prophet Mohammed.
There is a theocracy like
This is the proof.
Any of the other societies that try to establish legal systems that are based on Islam. So another example on the misogyny side is women are expected to cover their bodies. And there is some kind of discussion on how much of that. In some cases, they let you show the face and the hands. And in extreme cases, you have to be covered from head to toe, confined to the house.
Yeah.
Your male guardian chooses, or at least you need his endorsement to marry someone else.
Yeah.
Of course, misogyny needs to be defined, because if it's defined definitionally, more
like ultra-crepidarian. Let's define that.
Well, first and foremost, of course, misogyny needs to be defined, because if it's defined definitionally as it is in the kind of dictionary, the hatred of women, then the answer is very clearly no, because the Quran very clearly states in more than one verse, in chapter 3, verse 109.
Okay, very clear, very quick note. Okay, very quick note. Mohammed Hijab is the same person who uses the word Islamophobes when he describes people like David and us. If you go to the dictionary definition, Islamophobia would be, if you deconstruct the word, the fear of Islam. Are we afraid of Islam? I'm certainly not. You are not either. So that means we are definitely not Islamophobes. Case closed. Why doesn't he apply the same logic there? Of course, he will not, because he applies such logic only when it's convenient. Misogynistic here refers in these terms to something that degrades women, which is why it is, related to hating women. So if he wants to bring it down to the definition and say, no, Islam doesn't hate women, that doesn't mean anything. I'm sorry.
Yes.
That God does not let to waste any action of any doer among you, men or women, and that both of you are from one another. That in chapter 33, verse 35, the believing men and the believing women, and and so on. And it mentions a list of attributes, mentioning men and women specifically, and then says that God has prepared for them a reward. And in fact, the Quran explicitly mentions that we cannot have hatred towards any believer, because it's mentioned in chapter 59 of the Quran, God, do not put any hatred to the believers in our hearts. And that, of course, includes women as well. So from that perspective, it's impossible to postulate. It is impossible to postulate that Islam is misogynistic. What we will say is...
Possible to postulate.
This is so dumb. He does not respond to the question at all.
It's impossible to postulate.
Yeah, but talks about something entirely irrelevant, which does not address the point. Yeah. Do you want to go on? Or, yeah.
No, I'm just saying, you're ignoring the fact that it is impossible to postulate.
Yeah. It's
Misogyny is a label that is used haphazardly and arbitrarily between people in the West in discourses to mean different things. So, of course, neoconservatives or people that are more right-wing or alt-right are accuse themselves of being misogynistic by third-wave feminists and so on. And so it really depends on who is the one making the claim and what the robust definition that they have of misogyny is. Sometimes that can be ideologically kind of inspired. In the case of third-wave feminists, I would say it certainly is. That's why, unfortunately, even your father has been accused of misogyny. I mean, people in the West, credible intellectuals and academics have been accused of misogyny just because they believe in a traditional traditional values of a family system, a complementarian family system. And for this reason, they're accused of misogyny. So, but one has to say...
Of what he's basically saying is Islam is, of course, not misogynistic, because first you have to define what misogyny is. So in short, he also says, by that logic, he would also say Islam is not bad because it depends on what you mean by bad, or Islam is not violent because it depends on what you mean by violent. Islam is not hateful because it depends what you mean by hateful. So you can just get out of anything with that,
Yeah,
very simple.
Let me just read a pastor. I mean, we'll take some advice for him. So misogynistic. I'm looking at a dictionary right now. Strongly prejudiced against women. A more expanded definition, hatred of, and he could say, well, you know, we don't hate them or something like that, but hatred of, contempt for, or prejudice against women. But I mean, we could read a ton of passages. Let me just read one. So Sahih Muslim 142. O women folk, you should give charity and ask much forgiveness, for I saw you in bulk amongst the dwellers of hell. A wise lady among them said, why is it, Messenger of Allah, that our folk are in bulk in hell? Upon this, the Holy Prophet observed, you curse too much and are ungrateful to your spouses. I have seen none lacking in common sense and failing in religion, but at the same time robbing the wisdom of the wise besides you. Upon this, the woman remarked, what is wrong with our common sense and with our religion? He, the Holy Prophet, observed, you lack common sense. Your lack of common sense can be well judged from the fact that the evidence of 2 women is equal to 1 man. That is a proof of the lack of common sense. It's a ruling in Islam. The testimony of a woman is worth half that of a man. And a woman says, hey, Mohammed, why do you say, I mean, how can you prove that we lack common sense? He says, well, I'll prove it to you. Your testimony is worth half that of a man, isn't it? Like, he sounds like an idiot, that reasoning. And he's accusing them of lacking common sense. So women are, they lack common sense. They lack morality. They lead men astray. And because of that, most of the inhabitants of hell are women. And we could go into a ton of these passages, ladies and gentlemen.
I have proved that you are inferior, because in the book that has been revealed through my mouth to you, it says that your testimony is worth half as much as the testimony of a man. This is proof that you are worth less than a man. So, yeah, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to argue against that?
Yeah, hey, listen, look at this. This is short. Sahih al-Bukhari 2658. The Prophet said, isn't the witness of a woman equal to that half? Isn't the witness of a woman equal to half of that of a man? The women said, yes. He said, that is because of the deficiency of her mind. So listen, if they ask, hey, why are our intellects deficient? He said, because your testimony is half that of a man. And when they say, hey, why is our testimony half as valuable as a man? He said, because of the deficiency of your intellect, right?
It's like,
that's called circular, ladies and gentlemen.
What do you say? He's like a thing attached to himself. What is that? How does it go? I don't know. Whatever it is. But yeah, that's basically it. That's basically it. Circular reasoning.
Yes, I think it's very important, Mikhaila, that we believe that there is an equality of value between men and women. We do believe that there's an equality of value between men and women. The Prophet himself, Muhammad, he said, إِنَّمَا النِّسَاءُ شِقَائِقُ الرِّجَالِ, that certainly men are equal to women.
Please tell me if anybody knows the source of that hadith.
Yeah, I want to see that one.
I have never heard of such a hadith. If anyone knows the source of this, please let me know. But in Islam, there is no, it has absolutely no meaning to say that there is an equality in value or worth between men and women. That's not the question. It doesn't matter at all. What matters here is the question at hand. So don't strawman the position. What matters here is whether men and women are treated equally or fairly or not within a society. Nobody cares about their value to God, apparently.
In front of the law, that is the general rule. That is a statement of the Prophet Muhammad. However, we do believe in exceptions.
Men and women are equal in front of the law.
And we don't believe that equality of value means identicality in roles. And so, of course, people that are detractors from the other side, like the academic charlatan Ayaan McGann, who actually means refugee in the Somali language, of course, an ironic reminder to herself, she would say that Islam is misogynistic because of practices such as polygyny, which means that a man can marry more than one wife. And that is a practice that Muslims believe in. Or practices such as that Muslim men can marry Christian and Jewish women. Of course, that is something that Muslim women cannot do in Islam as well. And various other inheritance things or aspects where there is a differential there between how men are treated to women. But we will say that equality of value does not mean identicality in roles. Let me say that one more time. Equality of value, we believe, does not mean identicality in roles. And therefore, just like Aristotle said, that like things should be treated likewise, and that different things should be treated the same. We do believe that women have a collective female temperament on certain aspects, which need to be tailored for in legislation, which need to be tailored for in social and political life. And so therefore, if someone wants to use second wave feministic collectivistic discourses to try and attack the Islamic narrative, then they must first establish the truthfulness and the objectiveness of second wave feministic
Don't make me mad.
discourses. I am Hirsi, the feminist. We are opposed to feminism, and we say that feminism has now almost certainly been cracked open as a false ideology. Of course.
How do you?
Notice this entire thing. Look at his face. I mean, listen to how enraged he is at the idea of a woman disagreeing with it. The entire I mean, it's like Hitler. Like Hitler was in his speech.
Dear Mohammed Hijab, can you please tell us about your religion? Ayaan Hirsi Ali, the charlatan,
We're gonna destroy you! We're gonna destroy you! How can you say we're misogynistic? You stupid woman! You stupid with your little pea brain! Oh, you're
a woman!
That's
You're a
why so
woman!
many women are in hell! You're so stupid! They're all stupid like you! Stupid like you! You don't know how to define a word! Oh! I mean, dude, this is why we love this guy, right? He's coming on a
feminism as
podcast.
a false ideology. I still don't understand. I mean, you could say it's not good. You could say it's not productive, efficient, not beneficial, whatever. But how do you expose it as a false ideology? Does it make sense? Am I not getting this? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But man, I mean, he had a golden opportunity. No pun intended. He had a golden opportunity here to present Islam to tons and tons of viewers who would have who might know absolutely nothing about it. This might be their only experience of what Islam teaches. And I'll crush all you women. I'll crush you all. Wow.
I mean, and he's speaking here to a woman who is free.
Listen here, you stupid blonde woman. I'll tell you.
Yeah. It's like it's so weird. I don't even understand why he speaks to Mikhaila here on this stream, on this video. He shouldn't be doing that.
And by the way, I mean, notice he could just be saying it. He could say the same thing in a different way. Well, listen, Mikhaila, I understand. Ayaan has a different perspective on this, but let me just tell you, I think you're wrong for this and this and this and that reason.
What do you mean perspective?
We have to define perspective. Let me define it. Ultra-crepidarian, you don't even know. I love this guy, man. This is...
I think I should add to this, in addition to all that was aforementioned.
Oh boy.
So it's not just me, right? That frame was just
no, that's not you. And what's funny is as soon as we calm down, you push play again. I know he's going to do it again. All right, let me be serious.
Okay.
Now, Ayaan McGann herself was involved in the most embarrassing of public inquiries, if you can call that, whereby she herself was in a polygynous relationship. She was a mistress. She was a mistress. Niall Ferguson, her husband now. And she was doing so at the dismay of Sue Douglas, who is his ex-wife. And with the destabilizing effect, of course, the destabilizing effect to his family, to Lachlan Ferguson, to Phoenix Ferguson, the children of Niall Ferguson. So she attacks polygyny in her books, but she practices it in her daily life. And so this is a serious hypocrisy, not just in that which she does, Ayaan McGann, but in that which she states as well. So
I want to say one thing.
I want to say one thing.
You are expected to introduce your ideas, which you think the public should accept. The worst thing, I guess, one of the worst things that you could do is to introduce them by attacking somebody else personally and digging into their personal life and attacking people, mentioning those people by name. The worst way to represent your ideology and your beliefs, which you want to give people, is to attack the person on the other side personally and to go after them. Mm-hmm. Who the hell comes out of this? Which non-Muslim comes out of this and thinks, oh yeah, he makes a lot of sense. Oh, this is very good.
And notice, we've talked about this a lot before. The goal of the Muslim Dawah boys their goal is not to answer arguments or to refute arguments. Their goal is to discredit the person who's bringing an argument or a criticism. And so there's a fallacy. This is considered a fallacy. This guy's lecturing us about logic.
Mhm.
That's a fallacy, the irrelevant ad hominem. If I say 2 + 2 is 4, and you say, no, but look at your stupid face, blah, blah, blah. You murdered a bunch of people. It's got nothing to do with whether 2 + 2 is 4. Nothing, right? So answer the argument. If you have a topic, is Islam misogynistic? But let me tell you about Ayaan Hirsi Ali's great-great-grandfather. What are you talking about, dude? Like, what are you talking about? But notice, it's so ingrained into Islam, because that's the way it's been for 14 centuries, that I guarantee his fans are going, yes, alhamdulillah, destroy her. Yes, refute her by attacking her past and so on in your response to the question whether Islam is misogynistic. So yes, Mohammed, we want more fallacies, more fallacious reasoning. That's what we want in Islam. That's what we love. That's why we love you. That's why you're our champion. This you could go to any logic book on my shelf right here, and this will be in there as horribly fallacious reasoning. And that's what we want in Islam. Do it for us, brother. Wow, you got to love this.
I'm going to quickly make a poll here in the chat. In your opinion, do most Muslims like the way Mohammed Hijab represented Islam? Yes and no.
Well, if they don't, they'll be crushed.
I want to just ask this question as a poll here in the live chat right now, and you can leave your vote. But this is really something I really wonder what people think so far, as much as they have seen here. What do you guys think? Do you think most Muslims who have seen this are proud of this or not? Please let us know.
The challenge really is, and I will repeat this, if someone wants to quote aspects of the Islamic discourse, aspects of the Islamic jurisprudential tradition, and juxtapose it with the Western discourses, especially here we're talking about second wave feminism, and expect Islam to correspond with those, they'll be utterly and bitterly disappointed, because clearly we believe our system is superior. We believe the system is failing. We believe that nuclear households are being destroyed in the West. We believe that you've got it wrong. We believe that we've got it right. And so in order to defeat us in argument, you must first argue from first principles. And so yes, we do have differences with Western, especially second wave or third wave feministic discourses, but that does in no way show or indicate that Islam is misogynistic. To the contrary. And one last thing I will say is McGann herself is blissfully ignorant. Ayaan Hirsi McGann, blissfully ignorant of the Islamic tradition, the underqualified, overconfident, ultra-crepidarian, academic charlatan, right-wing apple polisher, obsequious woman that she is, doesn't even know that.
She laughed with us.
Did you see this reaction? What does this reaction tell you? What does that look like? I mean,
obsequious woman that she is, doesn't even know.
You know what she's laughing at? She's laughing at him using obsequious.
Yes.
Let me try to sound smart. Let me try to sound intelligent.
I mean, you have this woman here who is the host that you are here talking to, trying to impress, I guess, and you're using such words and repeatedly attacking your opponent, who has nothing to do with the questions that the host is asking. And as a result, the host reacts with a very uncomfortable, stressful laughter.
And notice how stupid his entire response there is, right? It's, hey, hijab. All these claims about beating women into submission and women being stupid and women being less moral and women being, the majority in hell and all these things that your religion teaches, it's kind of the definition of misogynistic. So how do you respond? Well, if you're going to go to second wave feminism, no, we don't need to ever go. We don't need to go to second wave feminism. You could have people who think that second wave feminism is completely idiotic, who would also say, hey, it's misogynistic to just beat your wife into submission, right? So he's just not answering.
Yeah, absolutely.
In her book, Heretic, in page 77, that we worship Muhammad. She doesn't even know the basics of the religion. She makes squandering mistakes, one after the other, about gender in jurisprudence in Islam.
Apparently, Ayaan Hirsi Ali says in her book Heretic on page 77 that Muslims worship Muhammad. And obviously, Ayaan Hirsi Ali does not believe that Islam preaches worshiping Muhammad. Obviously, if she says that, what she's saying is not that this is what Muslims intend to do, but that this is what they basically do, because they revere Muhammad so much that they worship him. But what does Muhammad Hijab do? She says that Muslims worship Muhammad. This just shows that she is ignorant about the basics of our religion. Okay, here is the thing. There are two options now. Either Mohammed Hijab is so dense and stupid that he doesn't understand why Ayaan Hirsi Ali would say that Muslims basically worship Muhammad, because she's not saying that they literally do, but that they, almost basically do. Or
which that's exactly what I would say. Yes, you're not told worship Muhammad, but look at your behavior. You are doing what your religion identifies as worship, and you're directing it towards your prophet.
Or there's a second option. Mohammed Hijab is deliberately deceptive. He knows that Ayaan Hirsi Ali says that Muslims basically worship Muhammad, but nevertheless, he takes this out of context in order to deliberately lie to the public and to accuse Ayaan Hirsi Ali, due to her rhetoric, as of being ignorant about the basics of the religion. Two options. He's either stupid or a liar. What do you take?
Or both.
Or both. Yeah, or both.
It doesn't have to be one or the other. Hey, let me actually give you a quick argument here. So, as far as worshiping, you have Surah 2. You have Surah 9, verse 29 of the Quran. Fight those who do not believe in Allah. And then the obvious question that would arise is, why are we fighting Jews and Christians when they're people of the book? And then so the next verse says, the Jews call Ezra the son of God and Christians call Christ the son of God. That is a saying from their mouth, blah, 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 blah. But then the next verse gives further evidence that we're not really monotheists. It says, they take their priests and their rabbis to be lords in derogation of Allah. So one of the condemnations that shows we're not true monotheists is that we take our priests and our rabbis as lords instead of Allah. Now listen to this little response. Listen to this little commentary in Ibn Kathir. So the messenger of Allah recited this ayah. They took their rabbi. So anyone can look this. Anyone can go to Ibn Kathir, go to the commentary on this verse of the Quran, Surah 9, verse 31. The messenger of Allah recited this ayah. They took their rabbis and their monks to be lords besides Allah, right? So if you tell Christians, hey, you say Jesus is Lord, that's true. If you say you take your priests as lords, what are you talking about? In what sense are we taking priests and pastors and rabbis as lords, something that we're worshiping? So they took their rabbis and their monks to be lords and besides Allah. Adi commented, so one of Muhammad's companions said, they did not worship them. So one of Muhammad's companions said, they didn't worship them. The prophet said, yes, they did. They, the rabbis and monks, prohibited and allowed for them, Jews and Christians, and allowed that they, this is confusing language. He says they prohibited the allowed and allowed the prohibited, and they obeyed them. This is how they worshiped them. So notice what Muhammad says. He says, wait a minute, your priest tells you something is allowed that's actually not allowed by God. If you accept it from the priest, you're actually worshiping him. And if God says something is allowed and your priest says, no, that's not allowed, then you're worshiping your priest if you obey him. Now, why am I pointing this out? Because Muslims all the time are taking what Muhammad says as if it's a direct command from God. And notice, even Mohammed Hijab would say this, AP, because we have Mohammed Hijab saying, if you just read the Quran, you get the impression that you can have sex with a 5-year-old. But we know from Muhammad, you got to wait a little longer. So what? Allah is saying it's permissible. There's no limit. It's permissible sex with a 5-year-old, but Muhammad says, no, impermissible. But that's what Muhammad defines as worship. You don't have to be bowing down saying, oh, I worship you. I worship you. I worship you. You're my Lord. If you say, well, God says one thing, you say something else, I'm going to listen to you. That's worshiping the person. And no one does this as much as Muslims, as far as taking a merely human being and doing anything he says, just doing absolutely anything he says. I mean, what did you say? This is how we have to step into a bathroom? Okay, that's what we'll do. Oh, we have to wipe ourselves in this way? Okay, that's what we have to do. They're taking these as commands of God, and that's what their prophet defines as worship. Again, doesn't have to be bowing down saying we worship you. Simply doing what a human being tells you to do and taking it as a command of God. Your prophet says that's what worship is, but that's what you do. And that's what Mohammed Hijab does. You guys are all worshiping Mohammed according to Mohammed.
Yep, absolutely. Quick update. Somebody sent me a private message to respond to what to me asking for proof earlier that Muhammad said men and women are equal. Apparently, the hadith is Sunan Abu Dawud 236 is a Hassan hadith, so a good hadith. And in that, Muhammad says when he is asked about whether a woman should wash herself, or a person should wash themselves after having a sexual dream, he says bath is not necessary for him. And then it is asked, what about a woman? Is it necessary for a woman? And he says, yeah, women and men are counterparts. That's what he says. So that's what Muhammad says in the hadith. This is apparently what is being referenced here as men and women are equal. What I see from this hadith is Muhammad is asked about a very specific case, and he says men don't have to wash themselves. And then the woman says, "Is this also for women?" And he says, "Yeah, women and men are like each other." Goes for this specific case. I don't see in this in any way a statement saying that men and women are equal before the law, or that men and women are in general equal. I simply do not see any such thing. It seems to be very far-fetched and misrepresented.
Yeah, and any claim you would have to interpret. I mean, one of the fundamental rules of interpreting what a person means is comparing it with other things the person has said. If you're interpreting it in a way that completely contradicts everything else the person has said, well, you need to rethink. You need to rethink your position there. So, I mean, if you're interpreting some rule about washing or something like that, and you're saying, says they're equal. Well, if that contradicts everything else the guy says, probably shouldn't be saying that's what it means.
Isn't it so funny that he cares so much about context, except when it suits his agenda, right? Very, very funny.
Latest book, Pray, you can see it in page 151, where she makes a series of unsubstantiated claims about Muslim women and their rights in Islam, saying that their rights can be sold to strangers and all kinds of nonsense propositions which have no basis in the religion of Islam. So if you really want to know about women, to the source, and this ultra-crepidarian academic charlatan, Ayaan, is just a failure who's been let in by the most unusual types of affirmative action program to the neoconservative circles.
What does that have to do with the topic, man?
Because she has no academic.
Notice it's the same thing. It's not, hey, let me answer you. It's discredit the person who's bringing the argument so that no one listens to her.
And this, I mean, what in the world does that have to do with the topic? I mean, I don't even know what to say.
Nothing. I mean, let me state this more forcefully. Ayaan Hirsi Ali could be an axe murderer who slaughtered thousands of people. It would not change the merits of an argument that she's bringing forth.
Jesus,
if she's saying, here's the argument, the argument is either good or bad, and another person could offer the exact same argument. You might say, if someone's like an axe murderer, well, maybe we have to be careful about what the person says to investigate it. But once an argument has been offered, especially you put it in writing, it stands or falls on its own merits there.
Yeah, what an ultra-crepidarian. Yeah.
Okay. So I'd like to just keep the rest of the conversation if we can try to attack the idea rather than the person. Otherwise, I'm never going to be able to have any guests on this show again for opposing views. Okay.
Yeah, you're ruining the entire show.
I saw a different stream where she was a guest on someone else's podcast, and she basically that was after this episode, and she basically said that she's kind of concerned about the way things go because people are very angry at each other. I guess she was referring to this, and she says, "I'm trying to keep it at the topic because if one side attacks the other personally so much, people will not want to come on this podcast anymore. But here you have Mohammed Hijab. He ruins everything.
I have one follow-up question about what you just said, because I think I understand a bit, but you talked about that in regards to believers. So what about non-believers? Like, how does the kind of, and I'll just be straight up with it, how does the potential misogyny affect women if they're non-believers, or Muslim men's relationships with non-believing women?
Muslim men's relationship with non-believing women, there is no differential in that as compared to Muslim men's relationship with non-believing men. There's nothing in the Quran on
you rape the men too. What? Did everyone catch that?
Do you take male slaves and have sex with them? I don't know.
I think Hijab just said that he would rape a male captive too. That's weird. Interesting interpretation.
I mean, especially considering that we're talking about a person who obviously and very clearly said that. Yeah. Let's bring this up here. I believe certain anti-Muslim women would wish they lived in the medieval period, a period where if a war was won by the two opposing sides, it was conventional that people could be taken as booty. Some historical accounts actually say some women would dress up for the captor. He finds this very, very interesting.
One second. Let me read this. But since he said there's no difference between men and women, I believe that certain anti-Muslim men would wish they lived in the medieval period, a period where if a war was won by the opposing side, it was conventional that people, men and women, could be taken as booty. Some historical accounts actually say that some men would dress up for the captor. And
there you go.
Notice what he's saying here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't understand what he's saying in the context of his attacks, he's saying that deep down, a lot of these Western women want people like him to come and kill their husbands and rape them. And these women are going to actually dress up when people like Hijab come to town because he's so tough and manly. But based on what Hijab is saying now, they do the exact same thing to a 9-year-old boy.
Let me tell you something here. Mohammed Hijab is talking to Mikhaila Peterson, a free Western woman who can have her own opinions and possibly say, you know what, I have a really bad impression of Islam now. I think I really dislike this religion. This is terrible. In that case, these words that Western anti-Muslim women just want to be captured by strong Muslim men like himself and be raped would also apply to somebody like her, for example. But here he comes on and has conversations with her and gives these impressions. I mean, it's just, I don't even know what to say. This is why I want to keep putting those words that he said out there so that they stick and that he carries them with him wherever he goes, so that people like the Petersons can also see what he actually is and what he really thinks. And I'm very happy that he's helping us out with that a lot.
Oh, he's helping us.
Yeah.
That indicates that there should be any different way as a general to how men treat non-Muslim women to men, except for those things which are outlawed by Islam itself. For example, having intercourse before marriage, or being alone in a place with a woman. Now, that can be a Muslim woman or a Muslim or a non-Muslim woman. These are things Islam prohibits because it creates instability in families. It creates
no sex before marriage. Did he say that? Did he say Islam doesn't allow sex before marriage?
Yeah.
Did he? I mean, is he completely ignoring the whole taking women as your captives and?
Let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about that. No.
And so on. The thesis, I'm not sure if you want to ask this as a separate question, but the thesis that McGann has put forward in her newest book, Pray, is that actually what you find is that Muslim men, the immigration of Muslim men to European countries has increased rape. This is basically it. And she mentions in page 33 of that book, she says there's an actual causal relationship. She says that there's a causal relationship. I've read her book, the entire book. And I've seen the data that she puts forward for the claims that she makes, Mikhaila. And just go for the idea. The idea is that Muslim men immigration coming into European countries causes an increase in rape. That's what she is saying. Now, look, she mentions, what is the data that she mentions? She mentions data from about 5 European countries, including but not limited to the United Kingdom, France, and Sweden. Now, what she then states is that there's evidence for a causal relationship in page 33. What is this data missing? Mikhaila, this data is missing. I mean, this data has everything going for it, in fact, except for the evidence. Because this data does not even have that these men are Muslim men And that might be a surprise and a shock to you. But this data is about where these men come from. So for instance, she cites that these men come from Africa, from subcontinental Asia. But you will know, and I'm sure your viewers who are clever people, who have been educated at a minor level, will know that Africa is not a Muslim continent.
I remember Majid Nawaz was asked, he was given a similar objection about this whole thing, because he was basically saying that there is a cause-effect relationship between the increase of Muslim, a Muslim population or Muslim youth and rape in the UK. And then he was confronted about this, like, how do you know these are Muslims? And then he actually presented a lot of data which shows that these are the data is generalized as coming from these countries, or South Asians. And then when you actually look at the names of known cases, you see that the vast majority of them come from a Muslim background. So and I'm sure there's a lot of evidence attached to this. I haven't personally prepared any reports to put this forward. But what's funny is that he basically agrees with the rise of rape, but he has a problem with attaching this to Islam as a cause.
Years ago, I made a video about the grooming gangs, and I was just reading some articles on the people, and one of the most striking features was how many of them were named Mohammed.
Mm-hmm.
How many people in the grooming gangs are named Mohammed? So if Hijab's position is, well, if they're immigrants, you don't know what their religion is. Well, I mean, I don't know exactly what the percentage is, but if 20, let's say 25% of them are named Mohammed, and like another 10% are Ali, and another 15% are Abdullah, and so on, I think you can start to get an idea of the religious background of these people.
Here is the thing: even if you mention that, they will say, "How do you know that Muhammad is actually a Muslim?" So.
Oh, now keep in mind that could be true, but you see pictures of these guys going to court. Alhamdulillah, we're here for our court. It's like, and they don't seem to be atheists who just happen to be named Muhammad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's mostly atheists named Muhammad anyway. Yeah. But there was a comment that I saw that I wanted to quickly bring up, because I found that was something that I wanted to add here. But Lindsay said extreme sexual repression equals sexual deviance. This is something that Mohammed Hijab will bring up as well, that there is no proof that this is the case. I'm sorry, but there is enough proof. I went to a psychology class where I had this directly in my textbook. There is a lot of research on this, on the cultural backgrounds and causes and implications of sexual frustration and repression, and how sexual frustration increases sexual assault, and so on. And there is a whole sociological term on this. Now it's taken into all kinds of different directions with the current politics, but rape culture is something that is actually a legitimate topic in sociology, with which in pop culture it might look a little bit different, but in sociology it's deeply handled, and different cultures are analyzed, and it is identified that if in a culture women are mostly treated as lesser and objectified and hidden away and so on, and sex is treated as a taboo, then you will see an increase of sexual assault and violence toward women. This is an established field in sociology. You can't argue that there is no correlation or causation.
The entire continent of Africa, there are many Muslims in it, and there are many Christians in it. So the data is not conclusive. In fact, it doesn't even show anything. It just shows that people coming from Africa, there's an increase of people coming from Africa, and then there's an increase also in rape. Okay, well, we tried the same methodology, Mikhaila. I actually tried the same methodology with Latin America and America, the United States of America. So people coming from Latin America, which are not Muslims, as you know, and when they go into America, the United States, there is also a correlative increase in rape. Now, we can't say just because there's a correlative increase in rape, and this is a fallacy, by the way, that therefore the causation is those people. But even if we did say that, well, Latin Americans are not Muslim. Latin Americans are Christians. And therefore, for the most part, very small Muslim minority, very, very small and negligible Muslim minority. And therefore, the whole thesis collapses. She even mentions, and she lies through omission by mentioning data from the World Health Organization. And she is a liar, by the way. She's a liar. She lied to the Dutch Parliament. She lies by omission by mentioning the WHO, the only data that has that the WHO has done on rape. And she she mentioned certain things about Africa. Once again, it's not even a Muslim continent in its entirety, and subcontinental Asia.
I find it so funny that he accuses others of being fallacious. I mean, please, man.
Yeah.
Can we get through 1 minute
But what-
without seeing a fallacy from him, and then he comes here and accuses others of using fallacies? It's so funny. Oh,
She doesn't mention is that according to the WHO, that same report that she mentions, but she omits this part. According to the WHO, that stranger rape is highest in what they call the high income areas, which is the West. So in other words, stranger rape is highest in Europe, or if you want to generalize, Europe and America.
funny. Take Pakistan. I know for a fact, and you can look this up, and I would like to maybe bring in some evidence actually. But Pakistan is, for example, a country that is known as a country that has a very big rape problem, but a country in which rape is also infamously underreported.
Mhm.
And you know why?
I do.
Please explain. Please enlighten us. Dave.
And you see this in other Muslim countries as well. You go in and say, "Hey, police officer, I'm a woman and I got raped." And they say, "Oh yeah, who raped you?" You say, "That guy over there." "Oh, okay, let's go ask him." "Hey, did you rape her?" "No, she's a liar." "Okay, well, you're free to go because she didn't have enough witnesses to prove that she's been raped. But ma'am, you just admitted that you had sex, so you're the one who's actually in trouble now."
And then what happens is that the news that this woman got raped or had sex with a stranger goes out to the relatives and the siblings and the parents of this
And
woman.
she has to die.
And then she gets in trouble and is possibly shot or stoned or attacked in different ways because the family cannot take the burden of the the dirt that was placed on their honor because their daughter said that she was in a sexual interaction.
Notice because even in the West, even in places like the United States and Europe, there are lots of women who don't report rapes, right? Okay, it's like I've already been raped, but why do I want to go to court over this and have to relive this over and over again, all this stuff? Lots of women don't report it, even though they could, and there would be an investigation, and if there's proof, then a guy could be convicted. A lot of women just don't want to go through that. That's here where women will be protected if there's actually evidence and so on to convict a person. He can actually be convicted. In a different country where, hey, you go and report this and your life is over, and but they have lower rape rates. But notice what it does. It actually protects rapists, and then you get a bigger problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are things in Muslim culture where you are supposed to keep this stuff private. You're not supposed to talk about this because you don't talk publicly about sex, and you also don't publicly talk about the fact that you were just raped by somebody. This is not something that you go to to authorities or to parents with. You keep that to yourself, or you try to resolve it within, because otherwise you will have a filthy reputation, and you have put mud on everyone's mind and on your reputation and your honor and your entire family and this and that. So
if you were raped, well, you were probably, I mean, this is the attitude, you were probably doing something that you weren't supposed to do, and it's probably your fault for inciting the guy and not being covered in a certain way. And
why were you outside? Why were you walking like that? Why were you on the bus? Why did you go to the store?
And so less reporting, and therefore it's worse in the West. What a nut, man.
Yeah.
So wait a minute, what's going on here? The whole thesis starts to be destroyed. And of course, as I've said to you before, and I'll say to you again, Islam prohibits premarital engagements between men and women. How on earth?
That's a lie.
That's a lie. That's definitely a lie.
What about your female slaves that you have rightfully taken from your opponents?
Yeah, he just condemned his own prophet who had a sex slave named Mary the Copt. He eventually married her because he got her pregnant. But I mean, it's in the Quran over and over. It's in the Hadith over and over and over. You conquer people. You have those women whom your right hands possess, and you're allowed to have sex with them.
Well, Mohammed was not a real Muslim, so that's also.
Can you get a thesis that says Islam, as she mentions the
Hijab
word
condemns Mohammed,
causes an increase in rape for Muslim men to non-Muslim women, where Islam limits it to the highest level. Stranger rape, funny enough, according to the WHO, is lowest in areas which are most populated by Muslim people.
This is so funny. This has nothing to do with the topic. He's accusing her of committing a fallacy, and then he says Islam actually prohibits, sexual intercourse unmarried, and puts it at the highest level. So therefore, I guess it can't really be true that Islam causes an increase, or that Muslim populations cause an increase in rape. That makes no sense. That makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like the subcontinental area. Of course, they say that's because the cultural reasons of a woman coming out and all that kind of thing. That's their analysis, but that's not their data. Furthermore, if it was to do with the jurisprudence, then we know that Orthodox Jews have a very similar, if not more strict, way more strict, kind of jurisprudential tradition when it comes to the interaction of men and women. However, I will tell you, Mikhaila, despite that being the case, we don't see that is causing any rape within Jewish communities or Jewish men doing that to non-Jewish women. She mentions in one of her interviews that she does, she says that therefore Muslim people need to be taught how to be egalitarian. We believe in a complementarian system where there's a managerial hierarchy and the man's at the head of it. We do believe in that, Mikhaila. We're not going to lie to you. In the households, we believe that's the only way we can do it. However,
okay, hear that again.
The managerial hierarchy and the man's at the head of it. We do believe in that. Taught how to be egalitarian. We believe in a complementarian system where there's a managerial hierarchy and the man's at the head of it. We do believe in that, Mikhaila. We're not going to lie to you.
Okay.
In the households, we believe that's
at least he didn't lie to her. That's good.
The only way we can do it. However, she's saying no. She's trying to impose a feminist narrative, which you should be opposed to, and your father is already opposed to. Which she says that she's trying to that men that are coming in from abroad should now be kind of vetted.
What a disgusting approach at trying to appeal to her father, Jordan Peterson, and his views. Now, Jordan Peterson has for a long time described himself as a classical liberal, or what is it in his own terms, the English liberal or something like that. I don't know. So a classical liberal. And recently, I think, as far as I've followed his changes in thinking and attitude, he has begun to describe himself as partially conservative. He does believe that people are equal. He believes in individualism and individual freedom, and he does believe in the equality of men and women. Yes, he does believe that the nuclear family and gender rules are important, but he does believe in the equality, and he certainly does not believe in the kind of gender rules that Mohammed Hijab propagates here. It's very funny to me that he constantly appeals to the conservative Western or classical liberal Western view and to the nuclear family when he does not even believe in such a family. He doesn't believe in one man and one woman and then kids. He believes in one man, possibly 4 women, endless unlimited sex slaves, and so on. So what are you doing?
Yep.
By being told what? By being told that they need to believe in the egalitarian family system. Now, if that's the case, that's not going to happen with just Muslims. That should also happen with Christians with traditional conservative values, and it can happen with Jews as well. And if that's the case now, this is a kind of corrosive restriction on human freedom, which is unusual. It's a creeping in of collectivist discourse. And it's very unusual because in other places, she denies that she's a collectivist. In summary, therefore, I will say that the thesis...
That is individualism. I don't know what he's talking about.
This is most pathetic. And it is most rejected. It cannot be, and it has already been refuted, by the way, by many, many academics. But for example, Jill Filipovich, who's recently written a comprehensive refutation of this nonsense that this miserable specimen of an academic charlatan has written forward, and for some reason is being taken seriously by people. But it cannot be taken seriously by people. This is basically, let me show you something, Mikhaila, since we're on the topic. It's basically a rehashing of the Jewish discourses. As you can see here, the Jewish problem. You see the white woman there and then the Jewish man. Can you see this kind of thing? Can you see it? I'm not sure if you can see that. This is the kind of thing before. I'm not sure if you can see that or not.
A little bit closer would probably be better.
Can you put that a bit closer, please?
So
this is the kind of newspaper article where the Jewish
that one there
as the prize.
Feed him some grape.
There, bring it back a bit. Bring it back. Bring it. Yeah.
Can
you see it?
Wait.
Flip it forward a bit.
This is so ridiculous.
Yeah, down over there.
And a Jewish man on the side. This is before what happened, the pogroms and whatever happened. This is the discourse. She's just rehashing a fascistic discourse.
So, because Ayaan Hirsi Ali is proposing that within Muslim culture and within Islam there is a severely patriarchal, abusive system toward women, and that they should, ideas in the West, he is equating that to cartoons, propaganda cartoons made back in the day, in order to vilify and demonize and dehumanize Jews.
Ayaan Hirsi Ali, you're basically calling for a Holocaust. You're basically Hitler. I mean, it's amazing. It's, hey, hijab, your religion says that you get to beat women into submission, that you get multiple wives and, unlimited sex slaves. And, you can beat women until their skin turns green, according to their prophet. And you can go around conquering and taking these captives, and women are intellectually inferior, they're morally inferior, and so on. You've got all these. Is this misogynistic? Well, let me show you this picture to respond to what Hirsi Ali said. Look at this. You're Jewish. You see the pogroms. It's like, dude. And what are his fans doing? Yes, alhamdulillah.
Yes, good job.
He's destroying the unbelievers in the name of Allah.
So ridiculous. I want to go through a very
questions. So
things.
This is what I've learned, and I don't know whether it's true or not, because I don't know what's true exactly out there with all the misinformation about everything. But this is what I've heard that concerns me. And it's that, and this argument I think makes sense. It's that when there's an influx of Muslim people to certain European countries and culture starts changing in those areas, things like, for instance, is this true in Islam that women who are supposed to have a male guardian?
Is that your question?
Yeah, isn't that true? Just so I know to continue my question.
Right. So there is something called a wali in Islam. The wali is a male guardian in certain very restricted contexts. So for example, if a woman travels and it's a long distance, some scholars say she doesn't need anybody to accompany her. Some scholars say that she should have someone accompanying her. If you were to travel, Mikhaila, I'm sorry to put it to you, but someone like yourself, and you had a security guard with you, okay, I don't think that diminishes from your independence or your volitional acumen or who you are as a person. I think that it's a good precaution to have. So it's a right that a Muslim woman has, rather than
it's a right,
something which diminishes her value.
It's a right. So first off, why don't you just say yes? Why don't you just say yes, there is a guardian system in place? Why do you have to dance around it to get to the point? Why do you have to use so many words to try to make it nice when in the end you're going to say something horrible and describe it as something nice? Just say yes. Say yes, Islam has a guardian system. You need a guardian in order to travel. And this is what I, Mohammed Hijab, believe in. But I also believe that this is not a restriction. No, on the contrary. This is actually a right. This is a favor done to you women, because you need to be protected by strong men like us.
And while we're on the topic of rights, if you disobey me and I'm your husband, you have the right to get your face smashed in by me.
And by the way, the charlatan ultra crepidarian Ayaan Hirsi Ali. Seriously, he's saying it is not a restriction. It's actually a right. It's actually in favor of women. I mean, this is such a dumb argument. It's like saying, hey, I want to. You are my wife, and I want to look out for your safety. I think if you leave the house by yourself, you could get in trouble. Therefore, I want to attach a collar to your neck, which will shock you whenever you take a step outside the house, so that you can never leave the house, and that you learn to stay inside. And she's like, but then you're restricting my freedoms. And you're like, no, you don't understand. I'm not restricting you. I'm actually giving you a right, because this is in your best interest. This is good for you. I'm just looking out for you. Would you rather be put in danger, in harm's way, or would you rather be protected by me? I'm merely protecting you. This is your right. You should value this, Mikhaila.
Oh, and by the way, if you step outside without a male escort, we'll all regard you as a whore who's basically begging to be raped.
Oh yeah, pretty much. So yeah, don't step out, or the color will shock you.
I'm just saying that because that is how someone would be viewed in certain countries. It's you're walking outside without the male escort. We all know what that means.
Yeah. But this is just your right. It's just
because
looking out for you.
People who are important require protection, and for us, we believe that Muslim women are very important. So in that kind of context, and in the context of marriage, for example, if a Muslim woman wanted to get married, some scholars say, the majority of them say, that the guardian should get involved in the process.
I think Muslims are very important, and I really value Muslims. And I know that if Muslims are, talk too much in the public sphere, they might put themselves in danger and tarnish their image and tarnish the image of their own religion, as Mohammed Hijab does here. Therefore, because I value Muslims so much, and because I want to look out for their own benefit and safety, I think Muslims shouldn't be allowed to speak in public. But of course, this just means that I'm looking out for the for the benefit of Muslims. This is basically the logic here.
And it's a job.
I should also add that some say they don't. So there's a difference of opinion here. But these are the two, from my mind,
the religion was clear.
Restricted context which guardianship applies. Apart from that, no.
Okay, good. That answers part of it. Then the next one would be like, why is it that in some areas women are required to like completely cover their bodies, or in some areas it's their faces are
okay. I want to get through some.
Rarely have I seen a niqab.
I want to get through a few things. There are some very nice parts here that I quickly want to get through. You
just got to do a part 2, man, and then a part 3.
Yeah.
Something else, if I want to add this as well, in the Islamic tradition, something called ghira, which means a man's protective jealousy over a woman. So, for example, if a Muslim man married a woman, they should feel uncomfortable. Okay, and this is the Islamic understanding. They should feel uncomfortable at the fact that other men are looking at her in a sexual manner. They should feel uncomfortable with that. Why? Because they should feel as if that's their job to satisfy sexually and otherwise that woman. And so, for other men to be feasting on another woman like that is something we feast.
The uncovered meat. Look, you put a lollipop, you take the wrapper off and put it on some ants. The ants are going to eat the lollipop. But if you put the wrapper around the lollipop, no ants. You see?
This is a perfect representation. He's talking to a woman here who is in public, and he says to her, well, we men, it's my job to sexually satisfy my woman, to satisfy women. It's the men's job to sexually satisfy the women. And if our women go out and others can see them, we don't want that. We don't like that. We hate that because we can't stand the fact that people feast on our women. Others should not feast on our women. Only we feast on our women. Only we eat them. Only we lick them.
My feast. It's my feast. All these women are a feast for me. It's a buffet.
Yeah. A buffet.
Disposition of a man, something which actually creates problems later down the line, because the woman is going to do certain things and the man's going to do certain things in the family, and it's going to cause these unstable families, really. And so this is a way by which and through which stabilities of
what a slippery slope.
We need stability. We have to wrap our women up,
and that the Muslim people can keep their honor, and in addition to keeping away from distractions which will otherwise impede judgments.
So let us feast on our women.
They are exposed to the modern world, I think, in ways that past generations were not. That's having huge impacts on young Muslim people as well. And I think it takes them to a place of at least agnosticism, if not outright atheism.
Okay, that makes sense. Is Islam slowly taking over Europe?
Well, here's the thing, Mikhaila. Islam has always been part of Europe. We have to see that, first of all, the Renaissance, according to almost every historian of science that spoke about this issue, like, for example, Patricia Farah and David Limburg. But in addition to even Orientalists like Thomas Arnold, who wrote The Preaching of Islam, he's an Orientalist. And all those people see that actually the Islamic influence has caused, or was a trigger at least, to the Renaissance. And not only that, I mean, you have to remember something like this computer that we're looking at each other with right now, and a lot of that was the influence of Islamic science. For example, Ibn al-Haytham, whose theory on optics was carried over to the West, and therefore through it we could develop things like cameras. So,
oh my goodness.
Oh my God!
Look, he got this. I got the book. It's called 1001 Inventions and so on. They say that this guy invented the camera. What's called the camera obscura existed all the way back during the time of Aristotle. What he did was compare the eye to a camera. That's it. And so since he had something to do with something, now keep in mind, I mean, that is important. You've got, a camera is similar to an eye. Therefore, you see, he gave the knowledge to invent the camera. They do this with everything, right? I mean, the Egyptians did geometry, the Greeks did geometry, the Indians did algebra, right? So Egyptians did algebra, Greeks did algebra, Indians did algebra, Chinese did algebra, the Babylonians did algebra, they all did algebra. But you also had Muslims who did algebra. So how do they describe that? You see, Muslims invented algebra. It's like, hey, we had someone who made a slight contribution here. Therefore, we invented it. It's all because of Islam. And what was your role in the Renaissance? Well, we had the works in areas we conquered. We had some works from the Greek philosophers that were preserved by other people. And since we conquered those areas, we had them. And then Europeans start to get access. You see, it's Islam. It's not Islam if you just have something that someone else had.
So people who were conquered by the Muslims and became part of the Muslim society took things over, which Europeans before them and others before them, including Indians, developed. They took these things over and expanded on them, developed them further, and then gave these records through cultural interactions to the West. And then over many centuries, things developed. And you know what? This is all Islam's doing.
And notice this would be like Muhammad. This would be exactly the same things if Muhammad Hijab said, "Oh, and we conquered Europe. I mean, we conquered Egypt, and so you see, Muslims built the pyramids." Like, wait, what? Yeah, we conquered the area where they had the pyramids, so that we built them. You see, wonders of the ancient world. We made them. You didn't make them. Oh, but we conquered the area, so it's ours. It's like
there are a few things that need to be said. There were a lot of contributions in
that's true
in a few centuries within Muslim realms by people who were identified as Muslims, and they came from cultures which are within the Muslim empires, who did some great contributions to different fields of science.
Medicine,
undeniable.
engineering, inventing various things, and also in philosophy. But notice it never lasts in Islam, right? It just never lasts. They conquer an area, they get some stuff, there'll be a brief flourishing of it, and then Islam will just suffocate it until it's done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There
what else? There's one more thing that I want to kind of get to.
Influence of Islam, and always has been an influence of Islam onto Europe
Through conquest.
And there are 25% of people in Europe that are Muslim.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Does the salute. You might have heard of him. Killed 77 liberal, non-Muslim people. Okay.
He is talking about the guy Breivik who killed a bunch of young people in Norway. And because in his long 1,000-page testimony, Ayaan Hirsi was also mentioned, he basically says that Ayaan Hirsi was responsible for that guy killing people.
But by the way, yeah, I forget what it was, something like 1,000 or 1,500 pages and so on.
Yeah.
I read
copied.
I read that thing. There were a bunch of things that were like recipes and like lists of things and stuff like that I didn't read. But as far as his thinking process, I read all of that stuff. And
really?
actually, it's completely different. What Breivik said was, growing up in the 80s around Muslims, he started noticing, people getting beaten up and so on. So, with a guy like that, I'm not sure what to take seriously in what he's saying, but this is his description of it. So he starts seeing these problems. Then he starts deciding that he needs to figure out why you have these problems. So he says that in the 90s, he goes to the Muslim sources, the Quran and the Hadith, and sees where these problems arise. Then he decides that he's going to go into politics. He's going to go in politics to do something about this. Then he realized that if you go into politics and you disagree at all with Islam, you'll just be shouted down as a racist and a bigot. So he had to decide how to get his message out there. And he said he realized it from Al-Qaeda, that the way to break through the control of governments and politicians and media on what people can say and how to get their message across. In order to break through that, you have to do what he called deadly shock attacks. You have to do something so shocking that everyone suddenly pays attention to you. So he decided he's going to go on a killing spree, because that's going to make people pay attention to him. And what did they do? Everyone went and looked at his manifesto to see what is making this guy do this horrible thing. So notice what he's saying. Where did he get the idea to do this attack? Well, he's bothered by Islam, then he's bothered by the Muslim sources, and then he learns, oh, if I want to get my message across, I need to do what Al-Qaeda does. Where's he getting? At no point does he say, and then I realized from Ayaan Hirsi and what she said about Theo Van Gogh being killed, that I need to go and slaughter a bunch of non-Muslim teenagers. That's what he did, right? He didn't go shoot up a mosque like that guy in New Zealand. He went and shot up a bunch of non-Muslims because he thought that would be more impactful on people. That would be more horrifying to people, so that he could get his message across. So just to be clear, Anders Breivik, he is an Odinist, I think neo-Nazi, definitely white supremacist. He sounds at least partly insane, horrible person, did horrible things, despicable, should be looked upon with complete contempt. But with all that said, for someone like Hijab to say, aha, because he quoted Ayaan Hirsi Ali. Yeah, and he quoted various presidents. He quoted Darwin. He quoted philosophers and so on. You could just pick anyone you don't like, find where he quotes that person. Therefore, she's responsible. When, if you look at what he actually said, if you want to say who inspired him to go on a killing spree, it's politicians and them shutting down people's ability to convey their concerns, and Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
That's where I got it from.
It's very funny. He's on the same path. He does basically the same thing that Ali Dawah tried to do with me when I didn't even have anything to do with any of these people, and I never ever approved of violence or of any such rhetoric. He tried to say that I am basically responsible for that guy shooting up a mosque in New Zealand. That's basically what Ali Dawah said during our stream, which is very funny. I immediately pointed out the irony here, because I have always spoken against violence and against hating people, whereas Ali Dawah himself has openly said that he believes people like me should be executed and that we are worthless animals. But he thinks I inspire hate and killings, and he doesn't. And here in this case, we have the same thing again.
Yep. And it's just horrible. And you Muslims who are watching, right? You Muslims who are watching, if you celebrate this, right? If you say, hey, this guy does nothing but misrepresent and twist and distort things, and the entire time he's accusing Ayaan Hirsi Ali of misrepresenting and distorting things, and that's why you shouldn't listen. And he's not answering the question, not explaining anything that he's supposed to explain, and acting like a deranged jerk the entire time. And you say, hey, that's our guy. You deserve the avalanche of apostasy that is upon you right now.
Dumbass.
Millions of Christian people in this country. Why? Because Christianity has not stood the test of time. The narratives in Genesis, I remember even reading your dad's book, The Maps of Meaning, and he had some doubts about Christianity by just reading the Genesis narrative, because the Genesis narrative is very much out of touch with anything that could be considered scientific. And that's another reason: the Trinity, the slavish morality, the lack of structure in that religion, and so on and so forth. So people are leaving Christianity, which is another reason why Islam is the fastest growing religion.
It's birth rates.
It is, yeah. It's very funny. He knows very well that Islam's growth rate is to 99.7% due to birth rates. That is the clear data here. There is no mass conversion to Islam. People are not convinced by the greatness and beauty and logic and reason of Islam. They are not converting to Islam. Muslims are simply giving birth much more, which is, if you look at the data of stuff like the Great Divergence, for example, it was put forth that birth rates in underdeveloped cultures are, because birth rates grow exponentially in food and other resources are put out not in the same way, but in a steady way. Higher birth rates are actually not a good thing. It's bad for the well-being of your culture. And we see that in the Muslim cultures. And
this is the guy screaming at people at Speaker's Corner, your child's going to become an apostate! Your child's going to become an apostate! Muslim youth are leaving Islam! And his guy, and Ali Dawah, same thing. Help me, right? He literally said with his tape on him, help me! Muslim youth aren't getting the answers to the questions and they're leaving Islam. And so he knows it's crumbling from within. And yet, you see, but people are recognizing that it's the truth and it's standing the test of time because of high birth rates, because that's one of the features of third world countries is they tend to have significantly higher birth rates. And if you notice, even in places like Europe and other places, wherever Islam is, they have the highest birth rates. And you can tell because of the teachings of Muhammad. It's basically, hey, your job in life is to be to be a baby making machine. It's not, just to be clear, not always the case. There are some people who have a much higher view of women than that, but it's a much bigger thing in Islam than it is elsewhere. And guess what? If your goal is to marry off girls when they're young so that they never have an opportunity to cheat and so on, well, they end up having 8, 10, 12 kids and so on. You know, by the way, the other
Mohammed also said that you should multiply a lot, and that he on the day of judgment he will be proud of the number of his followers. So
the other funny thing there was he just attacked Genesis when his prophet affirmed the inspiration, preservation, and authority of the Torah. He even had the Jews bring him a copy of the Torah, and he said, "I believe in you and in the one who revealed you." And Hijab said, "No, don't believe in that book." Oh. So
and
great.
He talks about science.
Hijab just called his God and his prophet total morons, and he knows better than his God and his prophet.
And you know what? We're proud of that.
He is.
Slavish, like forgiveness?
No, I don't.
You mean slavish, like forgiveness?
No, I don't. Well, this is a quote from Nietzsche. Nietzsche.
Who?
Interesting. No, I don't. Well, this is a quote from Nietzsche. Nietzsche.
Who is Nietzsche? Am I hearing this wrong? Is it an accent thing? What's going on here?
No, I don't. Well, this is a quote from Nietzsche. Nietzsche.
It's Nietzsche. Okay, it's Nietzsche. It's not Nietzsche. I don't know.
Man, let him make his quote. I want to hear what he's saying. That Nietzsche said.
He actually had an interesting stance of Christianity. The fact that you get hit or attacked or oppressed and that you don't actually respond, this is almost verging on a pacifistic notion. This kind of thing is, we believe, Nietzsche believed it was a slavish morality. It was slavish. It was like a slave. That's how a slave is treated. Whereas Islam, it doesn't say anything like that at all. It says that if you are dealt with in a certain way, وَجَزَاءُ سَيِّئَةٍ سَيِّئَةٌ مِثْلُهَا, you know, by the way, which is that the recompense of a sin. So if someone is to harm you in a certain way, is that you harm them in exactly the same way. But whoever is forgiving, whoever is pardoning and forgiving, then the reward will be with God. But sometimes, Mikhaila, and you know this.
Okay, here's the thing. You know, I like Nietzsche. You know, I'm kind of a fan of.
I like
Nietzsche.
certain things about Nietzsche.
I simply do not understand why he appeals to Nietzsche right now, and I simply do not understand why he appeals to Nietzsche's description of religion, or as Abrahamic religion or Jewish religion as slave morality. It's true. Nietzsche said that Judaism and Christianity arose from a resentment within the oppressed people who turned bad into good and good into bad, and then thereby established a form of morality where being weak is seen as good and being strong is seen as bad, and so on. So this is basically a very brief description of what Nietzsche actually said about slave morality and Christianity and Judaism. The issue is I don't understand why he brings this up, because read Nietzsche's book Twilight of the Idols. He also lengthily complains about the dichotomy of good and evil, and basically describes this as a whole, as a barrier in the in the human development and intellect and freedom of the free thinking, free spirit. And specifically, he talks about destroying dogma and destroying restrictions and morals put upon humans by such ancient systems where they do not belong in our nature. I don't understand why in this case he brings up Nietzsche as an argument against Christianity, because Nietzsche would also say, you know what, Islam is ultimate nonsense and it is an idol that we should break. This is what Nietzsche would say.
And if I were to respond to Nietzsche the way Mohammed Hijab would. Wait, you acting like you're strong and powerful in your writings, but look at you. You're all frail and weak, and you couldn't even make it in the military because you fell off your horse, and you're all frail and weak, and then you eventually go crazy, and you couldn't handle a woman, and you got disrespected by them. You see this? You see, you're a pathetic individual. You're a pathetic man. You're pathetic. We shouldn't listen to anything you say. That's how you would respond to someone like Nietzsche if you were disagreeing with Nietzsche. But notice what
Nietzsche is a weakling.
Yeah, he's a weakling. He's a weakling. I mean, you saw a guy beating his horse, and you go crazy over it. Come on, man. Come on, you're serious. As far as something like that, it's really the pattern that we see everywhere. It's, hey, if I can take something out of this and pretend that it agrees with me and agrees with Islam, then I'm going to do it. Right? That's exactly what Mohammed did with these. Your interview with Bart Ehrman with these apocryphal sources and so on. Hey, if I can steal something from there and use it for Islam, that's what I'll do. Or the same thing that Islam does with science and the Quran. Hey, if I can find some random verse here and I can find something from science and make it sound like it agrees, I'll do that, even if the actual verse or the actual scientific principle completely contradictory. But the same thing here. Hey, here's something. I'll quote Nietzsche. In the same way that I used the word ultra-crepidarian to sound like I know what I'm talking about, and that I'm saying something coherent and meaningful here. Notice all he had to say was, hey, there's something weird about the idea that you should turn the other cheek if someone strikes you on one cheek. There's something weird about that. And then, the response would be, well, let us explain what that means. But it's not. It's, let me say something that I can say in 5 seconds. Hey, we don't believe that you turn the other cheek if someone strikes you on one cheek. And so, we're going to give you a crack back. And so we have a psychologically healthier system or something like that. That's it. Going to be done. But, it was it not Copernicus who brought up the scientific principle of this, Newton, and, action and reaction. Dude.
Nietzsche would agree with me, although he is an ultra-crepidarian weakling. Yeah. Weakling.
More than anyone else, and so does your father. Sometimes kindness turns into weakness.
This is so disgusting. I feel disgusted by his constant appeal to you. I know your father.
And sometimes forgiveness is not forgiveness, especially when you do it with someone that will harm you again and harm others again. That's why we have prisons. That's why Christianity actually had to act like Islam in order to expand, in order to be what it is. In other words, it had to have a just war theory. It didn't have this morality. Theodosius II and Constantine and all of those emperors of Rome didn't decide to be pacifists. They decided to expand their empires, which of course is something that Islam as well did.
Okay, here's another part that I want to quickly get to.
But by the way, I mean, he's extremely stupid right there about what Christianity even teaches. He says this is why we have prisons. If Christianity if it were really Christianity, there would be no prisons, because you would just let everyone do everything and never stop them. That's ridiculous, right? It specifically says governments have the right to punish wrongdoers, and so there's nothing against self-defense in Christianity. Jesus is talking about a particular situation here. The slap was more of an insult than someone coming to murder your family and so on. But notice, it's governments have the right and the authority to punish wrongdoers according to Christianity, and he's acting like we had to act like Islam, and that's why they came up with just war theory. They came up with just war theory because there were times when you could just do whatever you want. You could go around raping captives and slaughtering people and so on. But Christians recognize, hey, wait a minute, we actually believe that people are creating the image of God and stuff. So this should kind of be a last resort, and we should have some rules for how captives are treated. And so they come up with just war theory. Wait a minute, governments have to deal with problems in the world, and yet we have a certain view of human beings. Therefore, how do we reconcile this? They come up with just war theory. And he thinks that just war theory is just acting like Islam for purposes of expansion. That's not what just war theory is at all.
Such an ultra-crepidarian, seriously.
And this is in a book which can be read in the English language by Bruce Lawrence, is saying that this is not because of the religion of Islam, it's despite the religion of Islam that we're doing this. It's a logical argument that we're putting forward of symmetrical warfare. We are killing them because we are killing their civilians because they are killing our civilians. This is what he is saying. But the Quran very clearly states, Mikhaila, in chapter 60, verse 8, لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين, that God does not forbid you to deal justly with those who do not try and kill you because of your religion. وَيُخْرِجُوكُم مِّن دِيَارِكُمْ, or try and kick you out of your homes. And تَبَرُّوهُمْ وَتُقْسِطُوا إِلَيْهِمْ, that you're good with them and you're just with them. That's what the Quran says, that God loves the just people. In other words, Islam forbids the killing of innocent civilians. Categorically, the Prophet said, "Man qatala mu'ahadan."
Okay, so
here
is the logic.
He's got to be lying.
Here's the logic. The Quran says that Allah does not forbid you from being just toward those who didn't oppress you. Therefore, Islam forbids the killing of people. What? How do you get to that? So I don't. Hey, you know what? I don't forbid you from being nice to others. Therefore, I am forbidding that you are violent to others. This is the logic here. There is that's so dumb.
Horrible logic, and just
so incredibly dumb.
Now, so notice he quotes, and this is why. See, sometimes I wonder, does he actually believe what he's saying? Here, he has to know he's lying. He has to, absolutely, indisputably, 100%. He's studied enough to know that he's lying a bunch right here. So he quotes Surah 60, verse 8. Allah does not forbid you. If someone, you don't have to murder the person, right? Right. So that's Surah 60, verse 8. Notice just 4 verses earlier, Surah 60, verse 4. Indeed, there is for you a good example in Abraham and those with him when they said to their people, surely we are clear of you and what you serve besides Allah. We declare ourselves to be clear of you, and enmity and hatred have appeared between us and you forever until you believe in Allah alone. Notice, because you do not believe in Allah alone, there is enmity and hatred between us forever. And it's saying this is a good example for Muslims. Now, keep in mind, guys, Abraham never said this. This is just Mohammed putting his words into people so that he can spread his own religion. But he's saying, Abraham said, yes, unbelievers, hey, enmity and hate, nothing but enmity and hatred between us until you say, until you believe in only Allah. Even in Surah 60, verse 8, read Tafsir Jalalain, says, abrogated by the commands to fight. Surah 60, verse 8, which Hijab quotes, he knows that according to his own scholars, that has been abrogated by commands to violently subjugate people. And notice what he's saying there. Innocent civilians. What do you mean by that? The Quran says, fight those who do not believe. Doesn't say just, fight those who do not believe if they're attacking you. Muhammad said, what? I've been commanded to fight people until they say there's no God but Allah. You're fighting people based on what they believe. So according to this, if you walk down the street and you see a Christian, you walk down the street, you see a Jew, these are not innocent people, according to the Quran. These are the worst of creatures, and they have to be subjugated for their beliefs.
I look at this infamous Quran chapter 9, verse 29. It doesn't say that you're not supposed to kill, the non-combatants or civilians or whatever, or that you are only to fight those who are unjust. It says he clearly, fight those who do not believe in Allah or in the last day, and who do not consider unlawful what Allah and his messenger have made unlawful, and who do not adopt the religion of truth from those who were given the scripture, until they give the jizya willingly while they are humbled. So this is a categorical declaration of fight those who don't believe in Islam until they agree to become subjects of you. It doesn't say anywhere, fight those who are unjust, or fight those who oppress you. No, this is simply fight those who don't believe.
But hey, P, you're an ultra-crepidarian in an earlier verse that's been abrogated. You see, you're obsequious to David Wood. That's why. My goodness. So lies and distortions.
Whoever kills a non-combatant, non-believer, they will not smell the fragrance of heaven. When innocent people were killed at the time of the Prophet Muhammad himself, he stated that this is something.
Look, I actually, a Muslim actually responded to this. What he's referring to is a hadith that appears in which he says, in which Muhammad is quoted as saying, whoever kills a mu'ahid will not smell the fragrance of paradise, even though its fragrance may be detected from a distance of 40 years. This does not mean non-combatant. What this means is a dhimmi, somebody who is a subject in your Islamic society, a non-Muslim, an unbeliever who is a subject and who pays the jizya because you have humiliated them in accordance with Quran chapter 9 verse 29. So Muhammad Hijab is either again here lying about this and deliberately misrepresenting what this hadith actually says, and this was pointed out by a Muslim, that Muhammad Hijab is misrepresenting his own religion for deception, or to appear good to the non-Muslims, or he doesn't understand his own texts. Nothing here ever says that it is forbidden to kill non-combatant non-Muslims.
Yeah, I'm thinking lion at this point.
Yeah, this is just so disgusting. It's just so dirty.
Pretty bad.
أنا بريء مما فعله خالد. He said, I am completely disassociated with this person Khalid did, which is killing innocent people. The Sahabi, who was a companion who was new to the religion of Islam, he didn't understand. He said, I'm completely disassociated with it. In other words, Islam is categorical about the killing of civilians, about the killing of innocent people, non-combatants and so on. Now it's a challenge to people like the hate peddlers, like Ayaan McGann, the hate peddlers, the individuals who are miserable specimens of academic charlatans that they are, who lie about the religion of Islam, who challenge the references that I've just... Yeah.
Okay.
I was waiting for this moment.
Now, notice this is
funny that he says individual. Individual is just a person. I don't know why he emphasized.
Yeah. So notice this. Mikhaila admittedly doesn't know a lot about this, so she's asking questions. Most of her viewers probably don't know anything, and Hijab just finally thought, hey, now I get to lie all I want. You see, it's categorical. It categorically no. you're twisting a couple of passages that have nothing to do with it. Even Muslims would refute you, and you're ignoring all of the actual clear commands of Allah, which call for the violent subjugation of the entire world.
I believe, as far as I remember, she will ask a follow-up question to this. But wait
about the religion of Islam to challenge the references that I've just. Yeah.
Okay. Is it possible that there? I mean, you're going to say yes because like anything's possible. So I should reword that.
Okay.
Couldn't people? Okay, you specifically said it's against the Quran to hurt innocent people.
Yes.
But if they're believed to not be innocent, then they could possibly get hurt. And I mean, that goes across all religions, but non-combatants.
Non-combatants. So it's categorically impossible to kill non-combatants. It's good of Mikhaila to ask this follow-up question, but what does he do in his response? He says again, it is completely forbidden to kill non-combatants. Categorical. That's it.
Yeah,
that's
because
a complete
lie. Because it says in an abrogated verse, Allah does not forbid you from showing kindness to someone. Therefore,
if an apostate, if somebody leaves Islam and openly says that they have left Islam, is this person a combatant or non-combatant person? Is this person guilty or innocent, for example?
And one important follow-up for future reference for everyone who's watching is when someone says, and Islam condemns killing innocent people, is let's say an atheist or a polytheist or a Christian or a Jew who rejects Muhammad as a prophet, is that person innocent according to your religion? Quick follow-up.
Yeah. An apostate is not innocent according to the Islamic religion.
And
to dive into the Sharia of matters, I should have a book here somewhere. Whatever. Into the Islamic law, according to the Islamic law, agreed by most Islamic scholars, a regular person is not supposed to kill an apostate, for example. It is supposed to be done by the authorities, by the orders of the caliph. But if somebody kills an apostate, it doesn't count as murder, for example, because if you kill an apostate, then you are merely killing somebody who already deserves to die, but you are merely being vigilant and taking things into your own hands. What you then get as a result of that is not the punishment of somebody who kills a regular innocent person. The authority can choose to give you a mild punishment because you have only done a little misdemeanor. You could just get away with a warning, for example. That is what it's established in Islamic laws. So you can kill a person who is an apostate and that person is not seen as innocent, and you are not counted as a murderer as a result of that. So please, man, stop lying. But yeah, so we are very much we have gone through an hour of this. We are the stream is now 2 hours and 10 minutes long. I think we've gone through a lot. I don't know. What do you think? Should we continue with this some other time?
You can ask people if they want it. I mean, I'm sure we covered most of the stuff, but yeah, I mean, if you're watching it and you see more that you'd like to cover,
I think we could go on with this a different time, but I would like to ask viewers, what do you think, everybody? Should we do a part 2 of this or what? By the way, the poll that I made earlier, where did it go? I don't know. This is kind of dumb and crappy. But the poll that I made earlier, I asked, what do you think? Do most Muslims who see this feel, happy or proud of the way Muhammad Hijab represented Islam? I think 57% said yes, and the rest, 43%, said no. So many people think that Muslims are not proud of this. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but let's go into the comment section here. Mohammed Hijab is here. I would like to thank Mikhaila for allowing this to happen and so on. Proud of you for putting this together. I mean, you revert to Islam. I was Christian.
Yeah, yeah. But before you look at this comments, this is the pattern. Very common in the communities, especially the followers of people like Hijab and Ali Dawa, is to use basically 3 of the 5 classic styles of manipulation. But it's reward, right? So it's positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, and punishment. And what that breaks down to is, when you're doing what is useful to us and what we like, we're going to heap praises on you and tell you how wonderful and great you are. When you're doing something we don't like, then we're going to heap insults and abuse on you. And so you're about to go through these comments. I'm guessing, oh, alhamdulillah, oh, you're so wonderful. It's so great, Mikhaila, that you've had Muhammad Hijab on there, because they want, she's giving Muhammad Hijab a platform. So anyone who's going to give him a platform is going to be showered with praise. And if you do anything they don't like, suddenly you'll have insults and abuse heaped on you.
Yeah. So what Muhammad Hijab did, and what they did all together, was to announce in advance that this podcast will happen and that this will go public. He then announced on what date specifically it will go public, and he specifically instructed the Muslim followers to do what they did before, meaning to go on this video as soon as it comes out and to leave their comments and to express how amazing it was and how great it is that a Muslim is here representing Islam truthfully. And that is what basically happened. As soon as the video was published, within the first seconds, Muslims came here and were like, oh, this is a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much, Mikhaila, for making this possible. Alhamdulillah. And then others watched it too and were like, Alhamdulillah, finally the charlatan snake Ayaan was ultra crepidarian Ayaan was humiliated and destroyed by our brother Muhammad Hijab, and so on, which went so far that Mikhaila herself was completely distressed and completely, annoyed by this, that she seemingly shares the view that this was completely that she's freaked out and that this was stressful and this was actually kind of a terrible experience. And we will see more of that, more of her opinions on this whole stuff. But yeah, I'm sorry to disappoint everybody, but most Muslims who see this actually are proud of this. Maybe they haven't watched the whole thing, but most of them are proud of this. And believe it or not, that is the case. From everything that we have seen, many of you might think, how could people possibly be proud of this? But I'm sorry, that's really how people are.
Welcome to Islam.
What a religion.
Good stuff.
What a religion, man. Yeah. All right. I guess we can continue next time. Many people say yes, do part 2, so that's a good thing to see. I guess we could go on and specifically go into parts of this again in a second stream. We can do that. And how about this, David? We make another stream, and in that we will respond to the super chats, because I know you will be very angry with me if I now start reading super chats.
I won't murder you, but I'll want to murder you.
You will basically humiliate me, but just to honor them, I will just quickly read through them without responding to them, okay? Or just a few. Okay, thank you so much. Time is fleeting. Ayaan never debated him. Thank you so much, Michael Mix Saucy. Thank you so much, XXWLZ. Sorry, we couldn't really focus on the super chats this time. Are you going on our show, AP? I will have some updates on that soon. Hijab stole the word ultra-Qadarian from Yasser Qadi. I want to show some support. Let's all leave Islam. Thank you so much. Super sticker. I can't see it here, but thank you. Joel said, hey, David, sorry, this is off topic. Well, I'm sorry. TD made a super chat and said, free book downloads on sex, women, and so on. Arnab Mubashir. Thank you so much for the information. Mohammed needs his hijab. After wearing burqa, women are safe from Quran 4:34. Another grape hand. Apollo's Christian Apologetics. James is tired said David Wood is exposing hijab for the 100th time. Celebrations. Pumpkin Palmer said, POV, you are David Wood and AP. Islam, no Islam. God bless. Pilgrim said, I know Islam, no peace. No Islam, no peace. The Roaring Man said, what is there for Muslim women in heaven? Nothing, except being a wife. Hi, David Wood and AP. How are you doing? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And yes, my debate with Ali Dawa was a fantastic presentation as well. Jesus loves you, AP said. Jesus saves. Thank you for letting me know. Rinsler made a super chat and said, the fluffier the bird, the better the Virginia hijab, probably. What? Is that a phrase that I don't know? I don't know. AP or David? Oh, I responded to this. I will look at that. Zagros said, David, why did you block me on Twitter? Chicken. David, why did you block him on Twitter? Chicken.
I block people who I'm on Twitter. I'm only on Twitter just to be able to tell Team YouTube when they screwed up one of my videos and stuff. And so I post stuff there, and it's cool. But the people who start sending me messages trying to argue with me, I'm like, go somewhere else.
It's just mixed like ultra-Qadarianism. Ultra-Qadarianism. David, you mentioned in a different... Okay, we read this. Allah loves not the proud and arrogant. Sorry, Ali, we are proud of that dawah and Muhammad hijab, you poor boy. The Quran also says, by the way, very explicitly that Allah does not love the disbelievers. So that's for everybody to know. Milan is happy about Muhammad hijab's performance. Well, Milan, no disrespect to her. I think we had a very nice conversation. I will have her back on again very soon. She is very much in favor of this very strong Muslim men attitude. So I guess she will kind of like that stuff. But it's quite obvious. And finally, one more super chat here, which says, hi, David Wood and AP. Is there any chance you do a video review on most truthful Islamic group like Ayaan Institute? Stuff that we can work on, definitely. But I think David Wood wants to leave us. He wants to die today.
I'm assuming that's sarcastic, because the Ayaan Institute. I saw that. I believe I glanced at an article from the Ayaan Institute on Muhammad and Aisha, and they actually quoted a hadith that is known to be a flat-out mistranslation. It's the one in Bukhari that says, ever since the time I reached puberty, when that's been exposed over and over and over again.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's not since the time I reached puberty. It's since the age where I can remember things.
Mm-hmm.
But it was mistranslated as puberty. But then they run with it and say, you see, she reached puberty, and it's totally.
They have a long article on that. I remember I read parts of that article a few years back. I think that's a few years old, right? If that's what you're talking about.
I think that was on that site, and so I was not impressed. If I start seeing you quote obvious mistranslations that have been exposed, not a fan.
That means you're an ultra-Qadarian, and we don't deal with ultra-Qadarianism.
No, we don't.
So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for reviewing. Thanks everybody for being here. And David Wood is a chicken, say some people. All right. Thanks, everybody. David, what do you say? What do you do? Should we go?
Stay away from AP. No, stay away from Islam.
Fantastic. Well said. Well said. Well said. I couldn't have said it better myself. I will try nevertheless. Thanks everybody for watching. I will see you again. We'll probably be back with part 2. Have a fantastic night and day and wherever you are, and stay away from Islam.
Stole my line.
Yeah, I should put in that Sajid Lipham
that awesome clip
version for the end of my live stream.
Stay away from Islam.
Stay away. He does this. Stay away from Islam.
Okay, bye.